when serving the public.
As we move forward, let us reaffirm our collective commitment to a national police service that upholds the highest standard of accountability, professionalism, and fairness. Let us build upon gains made and continue striving for a police service that truly serves the people of Kenya with honor and dedication.
Deputy President Kithure Kindiki, on his part, praised the changes in the National Police Service Commission, saying they promote democracy.
The second thing, Your Excellency, I want to say before I invite you is to say how proud we are to see the transition of our institution's leadership from one administration to another, from one leadership to another. And I think today's event is a testament that our institutions are properly working.
The chairman of the National Police Service, Eliud Kinuthia, also thanked the president for standing with the commission under different administrations. King Willem-Alexander and Queen Maxima of the Netherlands are in the country for a 4-day official state visit. The royal family was received last night by Deputy President Kithure Kindiki, Agriculture CS Mutahi Kagwe, among other leaders. Other leaders accompanying the royal family are Dutch Foreign Minister Casper Veldkamp, Foreign Trade and Development Minister Reinette Clever, and Defence Minister Ruben Brekelmans. The visit aims to focus on key areas such as trade, security, change, mitigation and youth empowerment, thereby strengthening the long-standing partnership between Kenya and the Netherlands. Motorists have been urged to plan accordingly as they may experience traffic jams in various parts of the city. Kenya will seek a new agreement with the International Monetary Fund after the current program winds to a close. The country is currently considered an economic bright spot in the troubled East African region, but is grappling with around $80 billion in external and domestic debt. Debt servicing is eating up 2/3 of Kenya's annual revenue, far outweighing spending on health or education, but the government has a hard difficulty raising taxes. Demonstrations erupted last year over a proposal by President William Ruto to raise taxes. The World Health Organization chief has urged Washington to reconsider its sharp cuts to global health funding, warning that the sudden halt threatened millions of lives. Tedros Adhanom warned that disruptions to global HIV programs alone could lead to more than 10 million additional cases of HIV and 3 million HIV-related deaths. Tedros also warned that the cuts to direct funding for countries through the U.S. Agency for International Development and the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention would have a huge impact. And finally, Kirinyaga Governor Anwai Guru had a difficult time explaining herself before the Senate Public Accounts Committee regarding various uses of funds in her government. Among the funds are those allegedly used to raise awareness about the new system for paying taxes and other county fees. This is after the chairman of the committee, Senator Moses Kajwang, asked why the number of people who were paid after attending a certain meeting did not match the number of those who registered for the meeting.
You know, this kind of queries, Governor, they do not, just a minute, Governor, they do not utilize our mental capacity properly. You know, you come all the way to Nairobi for us to count how many people are paid 2,500. It's a misuse of the Senate and the resources and the time of the Senate. These things should be dealt with at audit, at management letter level. By the time they come to Nairobi and they are unresolved, there should be no discussion. We should just be saying you paid money without accountability. You should be investigated and prosecuted.
That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
It's critical that people pay taxes. But then taxation has to have a limit. When you start overtaxing people beyond certain limit, then this is now we call robbery with violence.
We are all struggling, but we don't show. If you're not doing well, shame on you. But you have to say, I'm broke and I'm struggling. We are not okay until everybody is okay.
We are pretending to have political parties. Why don't we just be honest? And we say, these are the Luyas, these are the Kambas, these are the Kikuyus, and we find ourselves in Kenya.
With politics and leadership, no matter what you do, there will always be a complaint. There will always be the assumption that you're either stealing or you're not doing things right. As a leader, don't fear. If you know you're doing the right thing, you've thought about it, you've got an expert advice, do it, then understand later.
This country, we don't need
Session.
Traffic updates to you by M-Pesa. Calling all rugby enthusiasts. We're on the hunt for girls and young women who are
All right, taking a look at what's happening with traffic this morning. It is starting to build. Let's take a look at coming off of the Thika Superhighway this morning. And a little bit of that as you come in from Allsops. And also before that, you'll see some traffic coming in from Githurai. But I think we're okay, at least for now. It's still early, a bit of a drizzle here and there, so it's going to slow things down just a little bit. As you come off of Waiaki Way, also some traffic. And also on Langata Road, we're starting to see that build up. Tuesday looks like it might not be too difficult to get through, but we're going to keep an eye on all of this and try to keep it moving as much as we can. We'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Traffic updates brought to you by M-Pesa. Calling all rugby enthusiasts. We're on the hunt for girls and young women who are passionate about rugby and ready to bring the best cheer to the global cheer squad for Kenya Sevens. Show your love for the sport by sharing your most spirited cheer videos on social media, tagging SpiceFM and using hashtag M-Pesa behind every moment. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Very good morning to you. It's 10 minutes after 6 o'clock and it's Tuesday. It's the 18th of March and we are here, hearts beating, blood thumping, you know, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and all those fun things. What did you say?
Yes.
Huh?
Heart-throbbing.
Heart-throbbing. Dennis the heartthrob has said his heart is throbbing. Where? I don't know, but you know, just trying to put it out there. Uko salama lakini?
Salama.
May the day break.
Hey, and the break it will.
Kachifo. Kachifo.
Kachifo.
Siti, good morning.
Good morning, Do.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Uko salama?
Yes.
Salama sal?
Mini.
Bas. So it doesn't change meaning by its pronunciation, n'est-ce pas?
No, one has a finality to it.
Kabisa.
No, kabisa.
Oh, kabisa is final.
Finality.
Kabisa, like kabisa.
Done, dusted.
Yeah.
C'est fini.
Finito.
It's good.
Fini kabisa.
That's it. Combination of languages giving it even firmer meaning. Yeah. There we go. Sindio. All right, we're into Tuesday and it feels like, you know, we're in November. We're just talking about this morning. So many things can happen over 24 hours and you just be like, where?
My friend, 24 hours is an eternity.
I'm telling you.
Now combine that with Kenya.
A day is like 1,000 years. And 1,000 years like a day. It's been great already.
The king is in the country today, though.
Which king?
The king and queen,
of
the Netherlands
By
arrived
the way,
yesterday.
another king is coming. Lesotho.
Yes.
Lesotho. His kingship is coming.
Yeah. Alafu tuende Naivasha nini, you know.
Naivasha.
Yeah.
Sindo?
Yeah.
Tutafanya hivyo?
And it's a Ferrari.
Will the roads be cleared for him, though? Because you know Vasha is Vasha. So
Which roads? Which roads cleared for who? Because you're the king.
The king.
And people are going to experience the safari rally.
You need 2 outriders. With a wing. He does the trick.
Better yet, you can just land. So, you know? Yeah.
But if you want to see the country, well, I guess you can also see the country from the air.
Yeah.
You can, but you know,
if you
took
really
on
want to
ground.
experience Kenya, you should take a bus.
Outriders.
No, you should take a bus.
Making noise for us. Atutaki.
Apantambua.
Habari asubuhi kila mtu. Thank you so much for joining us today as we're getting into Kenya's biggest conversation for this Tuesday. We are here and we're going to have a number of conversations. I'm going to tell you what those are just a bit. First of all, we will have a conversation with the one Cyprian Nyamwamu. He will join us at 7 a.m. and we'll be looking into many things, and it will be Dear Mr. President with Cyprian. And at 8 o'clock, we will talk with Dr. Caroline Tigoi, who is a researcher with Kemri Wellcome Trust, and we'll be looking into how children get infections that are resistant to treatment. It's a big deal.
It's a very big deal.
Really?
Yes.
In terms of, self-medication, self-diagnosis, and then you go on and start giving children, and they say, okay, well, why are we not getting over this? And then if you do have children who've been to hospital and you do a comparison, you'll find that at some point the same drug is being given to all children at the same time. It kind of happens. If there's a new flavor of the month, that's what's being put out. It'll be interesting to get to know what our good friends at Kemri will tell us about that. And that happens at 8 o'clock. And then finally at 9 a.m., Ken Ondiek is the national chair of the Progress Plus Alliance. And we'll be looking at why legislators, surprise, surprise, are walking away from Kenya Kwanzaa promises.
Are they?
Well, it would appear that somewhere someone is. So let's see why. Isn't it?
Well, shouldn't we establish if it's actually happening before we start going into the whys?
Yeah. We look at that when he comes to join us at 9 o'clock. So that's what's backed up for conversations this morning on Kenya's biggest conversation, no matter what. Now, we're going to say hello to you. And just before we do that, imagine biting into your favorite foods again without the fear of pain. Are you one of those people when you do, you feel pain in the ice cream?
Yes.
Oh, I am so sorry. Let me tell you, that stone cold ice cream or that super hot coffee, just the way you like it, you don't have to imagine anymore. Because Sensodyne is here to give you the ultimate relief from tooth sensitivity. And how do we know this? Because it's the #1 recommended brand by dentists. And with World Oral Health Day coming up, we're reminding you that a happy mouth is a happy mind. And to get this, Sensodyne is giving you 50% on selected product to keep your teeth strong. Grab your pack from any Carrefour, Naivas, Chandarana or Quick Mart stores between the 20th and 23rd of March. Sensodyne for tooth sensitivity, relief, and everyday oral health.
And that right there soothes your mouth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, we're talking about those things. Yeah. So get on it with Sensodyne, shall we? All right. So you guys are tuned in this morning. We can already see you getting into the room today. So we just want to say a big hello to you. And of course, as we say, we don't take it for granted that you click in and join us every morning. Always great to have you here. So let us say hello to you, shall we? Let's do it. All right. Kicking in from Dayton, Minnesota is Cyprian. Cyprian, good morning to you. Desmond says, Ndu, yesterday you skipped my YouTube message. Anyways, still waiting to hear from the Vietnamese Mungus idea. But the question is, why do I'm not going to go to that comment because it would seem that there's a bit prejudice. But Desmond, we see you this morning. Good morning to you. Gilbert Kimuge says good morning, listening from Tampere in Finland. Good morning to you too. Don Sabwa, the Kenya-Vietnam Duta case stinks from the core. Really? Why? Diad says greetings from Amukenya. Where is Amukenya? Amu. Tuned in from Tamu is Rose Grace and says, good morning, Team Spice. I love you all for the good job you are doing. Please continue. Asante Sana, sister. Good morning to you. Good morning. The boldness of the Standard will not be thwarted. Standard Group Limited, keep on injecting, says Agri Momanyi. Well, good morning to you. Robert Mbogo is tuning from Mombasa. And good morning, Spice, listening from Rongo. Weather. What's the weather doing in Rongo? Kisa Daniel is tuning from UG. And Awilo Garang says, I am live in Machakos. Good morning, Spice family. Hello, Princess Ndu. Good morning. Leo, CT, and Aseto. If there was no more abduction after the MOU, wouldn't that be an admission that state was responsible or knew who was abducting citizenry and have ordered that they stop? Well, perhaps 2 + 2 does actually equal 4, but okay. Jimmy Gakio says, good morning, Team Spice. Abera Bethwell is also tuned in and says, happy to have tuned in from Kilifi County. From Bonny Lake, Washington is where Joe Mungai is this morning. And Rahim Tula says, good morning from Colchester in the UK. Waiguru, what did Waiguru do? Jimmy, good morning to you. Is that your good morning to us? Alcor in Doha North is where Wera is tuned in from. Chamgay, my beautiful people. Well, good morning to you and Gore. Good to have you in the room this morning. Good morning, guys, says Erica War. Happy good morning. Oh, hello. Good morning, says Jose Mainda. Josegi, you had been saying that Kawira must go. Huh? So now you're back and you're happy.
Tumekusikia basi.
Kabisa. Technis says good morning and is waving at us. Well, waving back to you. Good morning from Nairobi, says Pan-African. Good morning. And tuning from Meru County, we see you, Josegi. Fisherman says good morning from Namibia. Yeah, really?
Namlolwe.
Namlolwe
is Lake Victoria.
Jamini, Namlolwe. Sasa, where is Lolwe, Victoria?
That's the name of the lake.
Yeah. In other words, as opposed to the people who decided to come and call it Victoria, it was called Lolwe before.
That's a guy who figured he had discovered it.
Okay.
So he decided to name it after his queen,
who
was called Victoria.
But the people who lived around the lake did not know who Victoria was.
They knew the lake was called Namlolwe. Nam is lake.
Yeah, but I'm saying them, they did not know who Victoria was. Them, all this
even
time.
Now they still
don't know who Victoria is.
Then they got to know somebody called Elizabeth.
Bas.
Because Elizabeth even went to Kisumu.
There's even a mountain somewhere called Mount Margaret, one of those chicks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But that is okay. Yes.
No.
Sometimes this colonial heritage is not a bad thing. When I say it's not a bad thing, it means this. It's if you talk about a reference point to remind you.
Sorry, and that made me laugh. You said Mount Margaret is the side chick of Mount Longonot. Okay, please let me continue greeting people. I beg. Good morning, Team Spice, says Eunice Okello. Rogers lies tuned in from Mombasani to Sharoka. Happy birthday, Bernardito. Well, Bernardito, good morning to you. Ann Gore has said, please listen to what Ann Gore says. Ndu, you look beautiful. Oh, thank you so much. Those colors brighten my day. And I've been telling you people that I believe that I see Ann and I think she's just this beautiful, beautiful woman. I've never met her. I don't know what she looks like.
But it just requesting her to just slide in the DMs.
Just send us a picture, Ann. One. I help people this morning. Tech says, Era Ahmed is tuned in, says, good morning. And Orange King, okay, good morning to you. Salam alaikum, Team Spice, Walter Osongo. Alaikum salam. Happiest birthday, Bernardito. Yes, we're all greeting you this morning. Good morning to Flani, says, the newspaper is giving Kenyan government migraines and ulcers and constipation. Wololo. Joseph Gemma says, good morning from Team Spice. Issa Kale says, good morning from Seattle. Salimia Cyprian, he'll be here at 7. Carol Nyambura, good morning. Tunakupenda sana, my sister. Husband Sidon says, Ogambaki, Team Spice. Tugende tukole. Ogambachi is in which language? Is Uganda. It's true because he has said Tugende. Tugende, it means let's go. Yeah. Twende.
Even I know that.
Even you know that?
We know that.
Well done. Guten Morgen, tuned in to our national injectors.
Would you say Guten Morgen in true German fashion?
Guten Morgen.
Guten Morgen.
Yeah, you have to get the phlegm out there. Speed Black says, greetings. Ndu, I love your show. Thanks so much. Tuning from Ukunda Ndiani. And good morning, Princess Doha. Sorry. Good morning from Doha. Princess Ndu and CT, it's my birthday. Please, Ndu, sing for me. Hey, Bernardito, who am I?
Let's go.
To even refuse such a thing. Happy birthday to you.
Dun-dun.
Happy birthday to you. Bernardito, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Hey, happy birthday, Bernardito. May you have many, 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 many more. Karibuni sana. Good morning, everybody. CT, we went to Sudan. We're still in Sudan.
We are.
What's our proverb for today?
Our proverb for today from the Republic of the Sudan is as follows. The tragedy of our continent, God Almighty. If your relatives are dogs, make a tail for yourself.
Where?
Tail or tail?
Tail, T-A-I-L, not T-A-L-E.
That could be T-A-L-E as well.
It could.
Yeah.
It could.
Yeah.
But would that not be a tail if you didn't make yourself a tail?
See you, CT. You got to be in good company, isn't it? If people around you, for example, are doing this to be able to get ahead, and if you want to also be in that, perhaps you need to get what you need to join them.
Fake it till you make it, man.
Well, something. Yeah. All right. Gonna be interesting. Shall we look into the headlines?
Yes, you may.
Let's do it. On the Bold newspaper.
Please repeat that again.
Kenya's Bold newspaper.
Underline it again.
Kenya's Bold newspaper, The Standard.
Yes.
Fooling Kenyans is what's on the front page today. And there's a picture there of His Excellency, the President of Kenya, William Arap Ruto Kipchirchir.
Samoei
Kipchirchir.
Yeah,
all of them.
That one.
There's also on his left, our right, somebody's right, Raila Odinga. They're shaking hands.
You've forgotten Amolo.
Raila Amolo Odinga.
Ah, yeah.
Thanks.
Immediate former former prime minister.
They still call him prime minister because there is no other prime minister. But it's a debate. Let's continue.
Jomo Kenyatta was the first prime minister of the country.
But now that he's former.
They're both former.
You know Edna is here. You guys. Yeah. Edna, just say hi. Yes, she has said hi, but you can't hear. She's whispering and trying to pretend that she's shy.
Why are you not talking about her beautiful dress?
I told her about the beautiful dress. It's very pretty. That what? You're cooking. Now she's gone. Like the morning mist at noon.
Yeah.
The headline under this headline, home truths from claims of saving the country from a political precipice to rhetoric about their marriage being the answer to the country's problems, ODM leader Raila Odinga and President William Ruto's new positions and self-preservation. How's that for a bit of alliteration this morning? Sindio? Censorship. PS cancels standard advertising. That's also a headline. And so here we are still plowing through. New dawn for Meru politics. Those are some of the things that we see. Let's open the page just a little bit and give you a few more of those headlines in the Bold newspaper, shall we? Help funds delay leaves many in despair despite Ruto's promise. We had been told, msipopata pesa Friday. Mfanye nini? Munipigie simu.
Have they called?
Sasa sijui kama wamecall, but for sure hiyo kupata pesa hawakupata. Sasa kama hawajapiga simu,
samahani, mteja wa nambari napiga hapatikani kwa sasa.
Sasa ni kama hiyo. Kisiangani cancels Standard Group deal over critical coverage. Help funds delay leaves many in despair despite Ruto's promise. And Mombasa tea traders call for state action as Sudan closes its borders. New Governor Mutuma reverses Kawira policies. This is interesting because he was her deputy.
Yeah.
So would ask, does that mean that he disagreed with many of the things that she was doing while she was governor? The PS in the Ministry of Health, one Harry Kimtai, says private hospitals risk shutdown for denying SHA services. Remember, he said on the stairs that You know, you can deny services, but you also remember that you're going to need license renewal.
But surely, what is this thing? What are these threats all about?
I'm telling you, some crazy stuff that's going on.
Pay the people.
Period.
Pay them their money. What is this?
You owe them. Now you knew kweli mambo. It's not.
And it will shut you down.
Essentially, when you say that, you also remember that you need license renewal. What are you saying?
All right, you shut them down, and then
so you put Kenya in a
you shut them
situation.
down. They've shut down, and then
they will negotiate.
50% of healthcare services in this country are provided by private hospitals.
Yes.
So where will the people go?
And the reason why you've seen this proliferation of private hospitals around the country is because the public service was inadequate to meet the needs of the sick of the country.
It is the same reason why you have private schools and the proliferation of it.
Exactly.
It's not complicated.
Come on.
Okay.
We'll look into the story. So your angst might even increase when you hear a little bit more of what was said.
Yes,
Sato?
let's go to the Daily Nation and the big story on the Daily Nation. Why parents are worried about CBC now. Opting out, confusion surrounding transition from junior to senior secondary school, and the myriad challenges bedeviling the new education system have pushed some parents to move their children to expensive institutions offering international curricula. Just what you're from talking about not long ago. And Tata, Ruto and Raila packed a civilian coup. It's a betrayal of millions of Kenyans, says the senator. Now, how married man's date with lover ended in police cell. That is in page 3. And Ruto abandons Uhuru's 22 billion KDF projects. Now, 3 Kenya Defence Forces projects worth 21.9 billion shillings that was started at the tail end of former President Uhuru Kenyatta's term in office have stalled due to lack of funding. One would ask, had it been budgeted for? If yes, what happened? And Sharao, state threatens to shut private hospitals. Private hospitals that fail to provide health services to Kenyans will be shut down. Medical Services Principal Secretary Harry Kimutai has warned. Yes. Mekata kupeana shughuli because hatuja kulipa, utadu tutakuzima. City.
This isn't the first time we've heard such rumblings. Nah. It's an ongoing dance. In the Kibaki government, there was that dance. We even had the First Lady visiting these premises. In the Uhuru era, they made a very valiant attempt to literally gag. It seems to be the dance that the executive branch of government around the world have with the media. So let's see how this dance will go. Okay.
They say it takes 2 to tango.
It does.
Yeah, this one, I think all they've done is enter the flow. Now let's see the moves.
Yes.
Shall we?
Absolutely.
Whether it's going to be tango, whether it's going to be rumba, whether it's going to be cha-cha-cha.
Cha-cha-cha.
But you see, there's another one.
Yes.
Could just be breakdance.
Breakdance.
Yeah.
That one, my friend, the likelihood of it being breakdance with the emphasis on break.
Break, exactly. Ooh. Yeah.
Yes. Let's look at the Business Daily, shall we? Right. Kenya to forgo 63 billion in IMF funding. We are set to miss out in new funding from the International Monetary Fund on the termination of a multi-year program that was set to close in April this year. Okay? Rivertex eyes revival with factory lease to strategic investor. Okay, we are privatizing here, it appears. NSSF posts 3 billion gain from equities and bonds. Oh, so gains means they made 3 billion. Right. Good for you, NSSF. MPs raised the alarm over secret budget for Bomas of Kenya. MPs have raised concern over the planned upgrade of the Bomas of Kenya by a Turkish firm, saying Parliament has been kept in the dark about the timeline and source of funds for the project. Okay? Okay. Bang in the middle of this particular paper, the Business Daily, state seizes 1.5 billion houses, cars and cash from scammers. Really? The Asset Recovery Agency seized cash and assets such as luxury cars and apartments worth 1.547 billion last year from scammers and corrupt public servants in the biggest ever haul of dirty money and properties since 2021. Okay?
Wow.
I'll tell you more about the story. Let's look at The Star. The paper today is not for sale, meaning it is free.
It's free.
Yes. 8.3 billion Kenyan shillings down the drain in excess COVID vaccines. The ghost of the COVID-19 virus has refused to go away, with the latest revelation that Kenyans are set to lose 8.3 billion due to an apparent blunder by the Ministry of Health. It has emerged that Kenyans would fork out billions to pay for undelivered and unneeded doses of COVID-19 ordered by the ministry in 2021. It never stops, does it?
It doesn't. How much more money can you lose? How much more can go to waste? Did you think about it? Did you?
The battle for numbers in 2027 poll showdown. President William Ruto and ODM leader Raila Odinga have left no doubt they will rally together in 2027 presidential election, bringing to sharp focus the numbers that come with their pact. Really? This one I will wait and see. Bang in the middle of the paper, life in capital's shacks, nasty, short and brutish. What am I talking about?
I don't know.
How ruthless city criminals rain terror in the slums. Some of the most affected estates by criminal gangs: Kariobangi, Korogosho, Kariadudu, Mkuru slums, Kaangware, Kangemi, Uruma, Soweto slums, Kayole.
Wow.
Every time you see this happening, it speaks volume of the economic health of the country. People tend to turn to crime when the alternatives that had previously been available are no longer available. And with every new generation, young people, by their very nature, even the old ones when they were young or this way inclined, tend to be impatient. It is hardly possible that you're going to find these machete-wielding gangs are of old people like myself.
No, they're going to be young. They're going to be younger.
They're going to be much younger, actually.
Yeah, indeed.
So the question is, what is it that has brought this about? We've had these incidences before. When people talk of Mungiki, they forget that other estates south of the Nairobi River also had gangs.
There was one in Mount Elgon, SLDF.
Those guys, they took this thing seriously.
Yeah.
They even wanted to secede.
Yeah.
That didn't go very well for them, though. They didn't secede, and whatever they wanted to secede is still there.
It's still there.
It has not seceded. Okay, so that one didn't quite go as they planned. But we cannot look at this and ignore what happened recently with the president's tour of Nairobi.
Yeah, true.
When gangs were pouncing on people in broad daylight, robbing people, breaking into cars, breaking windows of cars in broad daylight.
In front of police officers.
Yes. The questions have arisen, they continue to arise, and they will continue to arise, but there is no response to those questions that have been asked.
Yeah.
So this is where we find ourselves, and this is not a good thing.
No, it's not.
If you look at the world over, what you call criminal enterprise, one of the reasons why they have grown over time, when you hear of the mafia, you hear of the who, the what, whenever the citizenry feel that they are not getting the services that they should, what they do, they decide for themselves what they're going to do. And some people decide to take over some of the roles that the government has.
They'll take it into their own hands, absolutely.
Yes, and they'll control it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we are not in a good place if we're seeing this happening. And it looks like the police have given up. It's like they've said, it's okay.
It's okay. We'll just handle it.
Yeah, you guys. Yes, come and report. When we have time, we'll come and see what to do with it.
Let me tell you, and I know we're going to go to a break and then come back and look at stories in details, but I just remember and I think I may have told you guys this story before, maybe a few years ago, of in Benin City in Edo State in Nigeria. The armed robbery had become so notorious in different city estates in Benin City. Yeah. And it just became too bad. It was clear that armed robbers, any given night, that armed robbers would be attacking somewhere at some point. And so people would call on police, they would call on neighborhood watch, they would call on what. So it got to the point whereby they said, you know what, we're not going to do this anymore. So they formed their own vigilante group, and they were going to sit on guard. Fathers, brothers, young men in the estate said, you know what, this is enough. and started their own vigilante group. They get armed robbers, they burn them in the tires and leave them at the gate of the estate for police to come and pick up. After some time, police were saying, oh no, you guys, this is too much. Why are you allowing this kind of thing to happen? I said, come on, are we supposed to allow our families to continue to suffer this insecurity? They said, we've called on you guys time upon number. You didn't do anything about it. So we literally took the law into our own hands. Yeah. These things happen. It's not that it's a conjured up thing where people take security into their own hands. They get to the point where it's too much, they will do something about it on their own.
And it's also happening in the United States because I think it's in Ohio.
Yeah.
Ohio State, because it's predominantly black.
Ohio,
yes.
Ohio.
Ohio.
Yeah. So because it's a state that is predominantly black, so the white supremacists who went there, they had a rally and threatened the black people, and now the black community is actually on the streets with guns protecting themselves. One of the things they're saying is they are feeling really safe and secure right now that they are protecting themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. That's it. Well, just take a breath. Let's take a break and see what's happening with weather traffic, and then we'll come back and look at these stories in details. These ones you want to hear. Good morning, everybody. Charles Nwabili, we see you. Good morning, brother Santisana. It's now 23 minutes to 7.
Talk every morning. Spice up yourself. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start the weather with SpiceFM.
Clear conditions for now in Nairobi, 16 degrees. It's 15 and clear into Nakuru, and at 15 we're seeing partly sunny conditions in Nyeri. At 13, it's clear in Eldoret, while at 27, Mombasa is going to be sunny, and it's 27 and sunny in Malindi as well. 20 and clear into Kisumu, and clear conditions at 18 in Kakamega. It's 19 and clear into Kampala, while mostly sunny conditions at 25 in Dar es Salaam. 13 and cloudy into Johannesburg, while at 25, Mogadishu is cloudy. And 14 with partly sunny conditions in Addis Ababa. 28 and cloudy into Lagos, while at 25, it is cloudy in Kinshasa.
Traffic updates.
Traffic.
Okay, so it's coming to look pretty busy coming off a Thika Superhighway. There's traffic coming in all the way from Githurai. Before that, it's trickling in from the Roiro interchange. So that looks like it's going to do the thing this morning. Some traffic that comes off the northern bypass finding its way onto Kiambu Road as you try to approach Muthaiga Square. So, I mean, not too clogged, but it looks like it's going to get busy later. Let's look on the southern side of the city where the southern bypass is looking good, going towards Huru Gardens and then onto Langata Road. So not too bad there, going into the southern part of the city. And if we look east, the eastern bypass then coming through towards North Airport Road and then out to the Cabanas interchange. Some traffic coming in and outbound on Outer Ring. Shouldn't do too much of a doozy on you this morning. Let's see what happens as we go through it, and keep in touch. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Traffic updates brought to you by M-Pesa. Calling all rugby enthusiasts. We're on the hunt for girls and young women who are passionate about rugby and ready to bring the best cheer to the global cheer squad for Kenya Sevens. Show your love for the sport by sharing your most spirited cheer videos on social media, tagging SpiceFM and using hashtag M-Pesa behind every moment.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It is 20 minutes to 7 o'clock. So that story, which I know you all want to know about, let me tell it to you. Okay? Now, the government, through the Broadcasting Principal Secretary, PS, Edward Kisiangani, yesterday cancelled Standard Group's media contract with the Ministry of Irrigation due to its critical coverage. SG had been selected alongside Nation Media Group, The Star, Cape Media and government broadcaster Kenya Broadcasting Corporation to run a campaign for the launch of the National Irrigation Sector Investment Plan. A letter from the ICT Ministry addressed to the Irrigation PS Ephantus Kimotho confirmed that the 4 media houses had been approved to run the campaign. According to PS Kisiangani, of which the letter was signed by Michael Okidi, please note, following administrative advice, the inclusion of Standard Media Group has been cancelled. The contract for the deal was signed on the 13th of March 2025. Both this publication and KTN aired their adverts yesterday and were scheduled to honour the contract with 9 p.m. interviews with PS Kamova at KTN, which was cancelled at the last minute following the letter. He was also set to attend another radio interview this morning and one with the Cabinet Secretary tomorrow. In addition to airing adverts in the publication and online platforms, Standard's radio stations, TV, online platforms and this publication were to carry stories and interviews from the department as part of the campaign. This move by Kisiangani comes at a time when Standard Media Group, NMG and People Daily are challenging the government in court on another cancelled contract in a case filed by the Law Society of Kenya. In this case, the 3 media companies are contesting the President William Ruto-led government's decision to cancel their contract to distribute MyGov, a government publication, and award it exclusively to The Star. The contract for the publication is held through Convergence Africa Media Limited. Apondo Tuko, Tawa. So I know people are asking, so what does this mean? Well, that's what it means. So this is where we are. That yes, there have been a number of headlines over the last couple of weeks or so, stating what would appear is the opinion of many people in terms of what's happening with government administration and dealings. Should government then essentially say, wag a finger at you and say you shouldn't say certain things or you should not have particular headlines, regardless of what the public perception is? Should government be in a position to gag media, essentially is what we're saying. You want advertising from us, then you have to toe the line. That's what we're saying.
Should club. Should be cheerleaders. Should not say anything.
That's what it looks like. Yeah. That's what it looks like. You know, media being the fourth estate, being in a position whereby you can hold folks responsible at one level or accountable at another level. What happens then when you then have to depend on, revenue to survive? Does that mean then you can't tell the truth or you cannot make an opinion known?
And you see, this is also coming at a point where the freedom of the media is protected by the Constitution that these men and women sought to protect and uphold, which begs the question, at what point is the law important? Or is it only important when it favors you?
Look, and it looks like it's going to be something that's going to be in the public eye for some time.
Yeah.
Let's just see how this all plays out. But if today's headline is anything to go by, it looks like the bold newspaper will continue speaking boldly.
Yep.
It is sometimes forgotten what it is that the role of the media is in a democratic society. And it is more so when you are in a period of calm and you are, all seems to be at ease. But as we speak, all is not at ease.
No.
And there's a reason why that is so. And the media is mandated. Its very existence is premised on ensuring that it informs, it exposes, it entertains.
It educates.
Yes, all that. All of the above. All of the above. And the moment the media loses that focus, then the salt has lost its taste. And as the good book says, of what use then is the salt?
If it loses its saltiness.
Yes. So that is where we find ourselves.
Yep.
It's a precipice, and I call it a precipice because that's what it is, that the media has found itself for the longest possible times. The countries from whom we got the language we are now speaking, yes, they did have the periods of turmoil. Before the Second World War, if you look at Europe and what Europe went through, those fellows are 2 millennia of just fighting.
Yeah.
The French are fighting who? The Saxons are fighting who? The who's? They fought. By the time they got to the Magna Carta of saying, guys, can we just sit? This is England now.
Let's chat about this.
Let's talk about this and just write this thing down and see what we want to do. Man, those people have killed each other.
Proper.
Okay? We don't have to follow that route. Their history is is an example for us to follow.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and in those days, there was no media. The media and any channel for informing the public, these things grew out of the need and the understanding of the public that certain things had to be said and had to be done, and that people who are in leadership had to be held to account for their actions. And they will resist. That is the whole point. They will resist. And that is why in a democracy, you have three arms of government. It was with that understanding. If you look at the country of Germany and you look at the country of Japan after the Second World War, you look at the constitution, there was a huge American input in the writing of those constitutions, and those constitutions have endured. You will find that any party that is considered nationalist, the ones who more or less propagate a certain leaning towards supremacy, it is not possible constitutionally for them to ever be in power. They have to share power. Why? Germany saw what happened.
Yes.
When one party just rose and continued doing their thing, Japan understood. So some countries have understood what it is that a constitution can do for you. We have an even better constitution. An even better constitution. And this is something which, if we abide by, many people will be rubbed the wrong way, especially those who wish to abrogate it.
Yeah.
But that's why it exists.
Absolutely. Indeed it is. Story, CT?
No. Yeah. This story of the vaccine, I have to tell you, because it's a problem. It has emerged that Kenyans would fork out billions to pay for undelivered, this is the point, undelivered and unneeded doses of COVID-19 ordered by the ministry in 2021. How do we know this? The revelations are contained in the latest audit report for the Ministry of Health for the financial year ending June 30th, 2024, released by the Auditor General Nancy Kadongo. The disclosures could focus the spotlight on the already troubled ministry and provoke uproar over the government spending during the global pandemic. The MOH currently faces a public furor over its implementation of the new health program under the Social Health Authority. Kenya reported its first case of the virus in March 2020, triggering panic and hurried procurement of health commodities. This arose and it brought about irregularities and illegalities, and that exposed taxpayers' money. Okay? Now, this particular deal that we're talking about, the ministry ordered some 13.33 million COVID doses valued at 7.46 billion. It was an arrangement between the government and the African Vaccine Acquisition Trust and the Export-Import Bank. This was entered in June 26, 2021. The delivery was only made for 1.80 million doses. And we had ordered 13.33. Okay? With the balance of 11.52 doses pending delivery. Yet we paid for it.
Okay. Pending delivery, as we speak, it's pending delivery. Huh?
As we speak.
For what though? What is it being delivered for? And it's already what it's been paid for, it's got to be delivered, eh?
Yeah.
It was supposed to have been delivered then.
Oh, for goodness sake. Okay.
Yeah, actually, if you go just a little bit down, out of the balance, the manufacturer had produced 2.72 million doses as of August last year, but these were not shipped to the country as the government indicated it no longer needed them.
But it's been paid for.
No, the story here is the contracts we get into.
Yes.
Yeah.
The government was obliged to pay as per the contract. Man, how we get into these contracts?
Who negotiates these things?
I don't know.
We need to find out who negotiates.
Because he's still paying for the thing, you're not going to use it. It's not even gotten here, for golly's sake. And then, the money's, essentially gone down
Not
the
only
drain.
that, what was ordered and wasn't delivered was due for destruction because it was no longer needed.
Exactly. And, vaccines only have so long of a shelf life. So what are you going to do?
They don't last long.
Yeah, they don't. Most of the vaccines are kept in a refrigerator. And, in a very short time span, they have to be destroyed if they've not been used.
I mean, I don't know if I'm the one who's thinking about it the wrong way, but I'm like at that particular point, vaccines were a problem across the world. So even those who are supplying to us were only focusing on the populations first. So how about the government would have gotten into these contracts on the basis of we will pay on what is delivered?
Exactly. It seems like a no-brainer to me. Like you say, you deliver, we pay this. Or rather, we order what we're going to use. How about we order what we're going to use?
There are very many questions which arise. How did we, first of all, engage the Afri-Exim Bank? How? Everything about it, the contractual processes, who we contracted, why we contracted them, and then the details of the contract. Big question mark. How on earth did we arrive at this? We knew what we needed from the get-go. We know our population.
Yeah.
We know the need.
So why not order based on need?
And the people were making them, we didn't know where they were being made.
For Pete's sake,
As well, at that particular point, we knew exactly the hotspots when it came to matters COVID. So we could just estimate the population of these areas and purchase based off that.
You know this story reminds me of the saga of Kenya Airways. And the
hedging.
We are what we need. Very confusing but if you pay attention, it's quite straightforward.
Yeah.
There are companies who specialize in leasing aircraft. We went and bought some aircraft called Embraer. Many.
Yeah.
Nice aircraft, narrow, limit capacity for cargo.
Yep.
Or just passenger bags and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Range of flight also limited. Then you ask yourself, when we're buying these things,
where did you think you were flying people to?
Yes, exactly. Just Malawi and Zambia and Tanzania, or did you need to go abroad? Okay, fine. To date, we haven't bought a cargo plane. We boast of having refurbished a passenger plane.
Yeah.
They are so different. They are made in
completely different.
It's completely different.
Yeah.
Now, when you hear of these things and you hear the obligations we have, and you're being told we're still paying for these things, are we going to be paying these things for the rest of our lives, and our children and our grandchildren will pay for these things?
Well, the way it's going, yes.
Who got us into this mess? Who? That is my question.
Yes.
Who agreed to this? And who are the people in that room negotiating? And what on earth were they thinking when they got us into this? Or they took advantage of the panic that we were in and decided, guys, let's just scribble a few things here. We know what it is we're doing.
Yeah. As well, as we still talk about that, there was these entire... What actually even made it worse was the fact that we went and negotiated on fuel hedging. What that meant was we agree with fuel producers that we're going to buy your fuel at, say, $10, right?
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of how the market would change. So that means if the dollar depreciates, we're still paying $10 because that was our agreement. So the exchange rates will always be at our disadvantage. So you find over the years, you're paying billions and billions, yet you could have lessened that and allowed the market to play.
For sure.
It goes back to my question, who on earth?
Who negotiates these deals? It's the question of the day. Give us a story.
Yeah, so I want to look at story on The Nation. Why parents are worried about CBC. That is on page 4 and 5 of The Nation. And after observing her two sons learn under the competence-based curriculum for 6 and 7 years, Dr. Lucy Ryungu recently decided to transfer them to a school offering an international curriculum. Now, Ryungu said her decision was informed by the confusion arising from the transition from junior to senior school. Her two sons were in junior school. Most parents were not sure about what happens after senior school. Which universities will our children join after completing senior school? That has been a big battle in my home after grades 10, 11 and 12. What next? She asked, urging the Ministry of Education to demystify senior schools.
So you're going to university?
You're going to university. Are the teachers ready for your kids?
In university?
Yeah.
See, they're university teachers right now.
Yeah. But the entire curriculum changes as you go forward.
Why are you worried? See, you've come, we teach you university curriculum. Mm-hmm. We keep it moving. When has that ever been different? Because you've now done a different curriculum of CBC. You really think that the university system is going to change because people did CBC and finished in grade 12 instead of Form 4?
So it is a problem of clear progress in terms of primary, secondary, going to university that the ministry has not communicated to parents, and parents feel as though I will not let my kid go through this. I must find a solution. So again, we go back to communication from the ministry on matters education. Jehovah, acha nimekumalizia.
Yani, word. Look, this thing, there's so much. Mara, the other day, math is not compulsory in STEM. I don't know. You're going to now. People are wondering what happens when you finish grade 12. Those who are in grade 9, are they going to sit an exam?
Yeah.
Then what happens? How they're going to go to 10, 11, and 12 when they finish junior secondary, then go to senior secondary? That everybody is asking so much in terms of questions, and that there's so much confusion. It means that you're not telling people exactly what's going to happen. You're not communicating. And these are people's children. Just tell them what's happening. Okay, STEM, they're going to start selecting STEM or pathways to humanities. You want to do STEM with only that 67% is where you have science teachers. STEM is primarily science.
Yeah.
Have you started training more teachers so that at least as we go to STEM schools, you have enough?
You know, we do have teachers, but are we... I'm repeating what you've said. Are we training them to meet the needs
of
the system? Yeah.
Are we focusing so that we say, as we have a new intake of people training to be teachers, this is going to be the focus?
And you can even retrain. For teachers, you can retrain. Even if you started in one subject area, you can retrain in another.
That's how right you are.
Yeah.
Some of us went to teach things we didn't study. Why? And I remember, but you are a teacher. I said, yes. Just read and teach. And you're right. If you read it, you can teach it.
The skill of teaching is what you have already.
So get the information, internalize it.
So internalize information and use your skill to teach it.
Teach, and then you teach it.
Period. Yeah.
You know, at the center of all this is, even when you talk about all these government plans, talk about SHA and whatnot, what is failing is communication. How you ensure that your citizens understand the projects you're coming up with.
But you know, also, in order to communicate something, you must also know it,
Yes.
I think there's confusion across board here in terms of what's supposed to be happening.
Yes.
So perhaps that's why there's no communication, because folks really just don't understand it.
Yeah,
in terms of what's supposed to go on.
Yeah, implementers of the project do not understand what they're implementing.
They do. They do, actually. They do. They do. The confusion is, should they say what they know about it, or should they pretend that everything is okay?
Everything is okay. Or should they actually come out and say, this thing is a hot mess, folks, and if you get into it, you're going to be in an even bigger mess?
Or say, this is the path we think we should follow, but we're not following it. And if we continue this way, we're going to have a problem. There is nothing that can't be fixed. But but you must know what it is you're fixing.
Thank you. Can I tell you very quickly that the PS has said private hospitals risk shutdown of denying SHA services. Private healthcare providers refusing outpatient services under the Social Health Authority will face severe consequences. I mean, it doesn't get better, does it? Including the possibility of being shut down. Health Principal Secretary Harry Kimtai stated that the government will not succumb to intimidation by private healthcare providers and insisted that all claims exceeding 10 million shillings must be substantiated. See where we are going now? It's no longer that, yes, we know we owe you, we're going to pay you. It's like, first of all, that 10 million that you're even talking about, how do we even know that we owe you in the first place? Number one. Number two, don't annoy me. If you decide that you're not going to provide services, remember that you still have to come back to us to give you a license. So, number one, if you annoy me, I can revoke your license. Number two, if you annoy me even more, even that money that you're saying we owe you, can you be sure that that's what we actually owe you? If not, come and go and sit down and open the thing and let people be treated. Essentially, that's what you're being told. Don't play with us because we'll tutakushu gulikia.
You know, on Saturday I was having a conversation with chairperson for the faith-based hospitals.
Yeah.
They gave 14 days, which lapses on the 21st, and up to now there has been no communication from the government on how they will be paid.
Omo. No, it's small, hello. Meanwhile, it's 7 o'clock.
.1 Spice FM, Kisi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. Once more, this is the News Wire. I'm La Ubaga. The Kenya Magistrates and Judges Association has accused the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission of harassment and intimidation of judicial officers. In its bid to be enjoined in the case against Thika Chief Magistrate Stella Atambo, the association cited constitutional violations in the investigation process. This development comes just hours after the High Court halted the Director of Public Prosecutions from prosecuting Atambo, escalating tensions into a full-blown standoff between the judiciary and the anti-graft agency. 4 days after the EACC raided the home of Chief Magistrate Atambo, the KMJA has strongly condemned the anti-corruption watchdog, alleging an attempt to intimidate judicial officers. In its application to be enjoined as an interested party in the case against Atambo, the association listed what it described as efforts to instill fear among judicial officers. Thousands of students who sat national exams like KCSE are stranded as the school leavers have still not received their certificates, mainly due to unpaid school fees. This has put a major impediment to their plans to continue their education or seek job opportunities. Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Migos has now ordered all head teachers to release certificates immediately, terming withholding of the documents illegal and unacceptable. Head teachers who have certificates in their possession have been given a 14-day ultimatum to release or face serious consequences. Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru had a difficult time explaining herself before the Senate Public Accounts Committee regarding various uses of funds in her government. Among the funds are those allegedly used to raise awareness about the new system for paying taxes and other county fees. This is after the chairman of the committee, Senator Moses Kajwang, asked why the number of people who were paid after attending the meeting did not match the number of those who registered.
You know, this kind of queries, Governor, they do not... Just a minute, Governor. They do not utilize our mental capacity properly. You know, you come all the way to Nairobi for us to count how many people are paid 2,500. It's a misuse of the Senate and the resources and the time of the Senate. This thing should be dealt with at audit, at management letter level. By the time they come to Nairobi and they are unresolved, there should be no discussion. We should just be saying you paid money without accountability, you should be investigated and prosecuted. Surely, we really want, and you have seen our interaction has improved over the years. We want to talk about bigger policy issues, not counting how many people came into a meeting. And you know, it is very frustrating. So, we either take the word of the Auditor General that this is an improper charge, or you tell us that you've got the proper list somewhere, present it to the Auditor General for them to advise us on the way forward. Because I don't think I went to school to come and deal with such issues. Between 162 and 136 being paid 2,500.
In her defense, Waiguru claimed that her government targeted 160 people to attend the 5-day meeting, but only 136 attended and were paid. Waiguru was also asked to explain how 4 million shillings was spent on food for tax collection officers in her county.
Proceed, Governor.
The auditors had the list, that's why they made reference to it.
We are asking as Parliament, Article 2293 requires us to consider, debate and take appropriate action. That is our duty. The auditor has already discharged their mandate. We are now in a constitutional phase. So, you cannot tell us the auditor saw it. Then why are we here? Unless we are here to waste each other's time.
That's the News Wire. I'm La Ubaga.
Traffic.
All right, at a few minutes after 7 o'clock, let's take a look at what's happening on the roads today. We've got a real jump into traffic this morning as we take a look at what's coming off the Thika Superhighway. That has been busy this morning, and we'll come through then towards towards Survey with quite some traffic. It's bumper to bumper all the way from coming in from Githurai through towards Kasarani, Garden City, and then onto Survey. Doesn't look too bad coming off of Ngong Road, at least not for now. There is some traffic as you come in from Naivasha Road, and then it's going to even out. Langata Road does have some traffic as you're getting through towards the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, and we're on the eastern bypass coming in from Ruai, and as you go all the way through towards Cabanas. So that's busy, and that's where we are. Not yet into traffic hour, so likely to get busier still. Let's keep an eye on all of this as we try to keep it moving. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Good morning at 7 minutes after 7 o'clock, and we're getting into the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. And we're going to have that conversation this hour with Cyprian Nyamwamu, and he'll join us in just a bit. But imagine biting into your favorite foods again without the fear of the pain. So that stone cold ice cream or that super hot coffee, just the way you like it. You don't have to imagine it anymore because Sensodyne is here to give you the ultimate relief from tooth sensitivity. And how do we know this? Because it's the #1 recommended brand by dentists. And with World Oral Health Day coming up, we are reminding you that a happy mouth is a happy mind. And to get this, Sensodyne is giving you 50% off selected products to keep your teeth strong. Grab your pack from any Carrefour, Naivas, Chandarana or Quickmart stores from the 20th to the 23rd of March. Sensodyne for tooth sensitivity, relief and everyday oral health. Something for you to remember, and that you can lean into that ice cream whenever you need to have it. Sensodyne is sorting you out from day to day. And we're getting into a conversation this hour, much needed one, I would say. There are very many things happening around the country. There are very many perceptions there's a lot of perception that's been held, and quite a number of folks who are, saying, where are we? And perhaps never a bad idea to be able to get a compass and point it in a direction that's going to, help folks out. And those are some of the things that we do in the Situation Room every morning. And we're getting into a conversation with Cyprian Nyamwamu, like I told you, and he's here with us in the hot seat. And even as we continue with those conversations, we're going to be saying, dear Mr. President, and a number of things that have come up as a result of that. Okay, and Cyprian is here with us this morning. Cyprian Nyamwamu, good morning.
Good morning, Du.
How are you doing?
Very, very, very well. We are thankful that we are alive and we are still moving on. We are on our feet.
Indeed.
Yes.
At some level.
At all levels.
At all levels.
Yes.
Well, Karibu Sana, it's always a fresh moment to have you here.
Thank you.
And even as we welcome you to today's show, CT has proverbs from Sudan, the Republic. Is it the People's Republic?
No,
it's just the Republic. It's the Republic of Sudan.
Of the Sudan.
Of the Sudan. He'll let us know what the proverb is, and of course you will give us your interpretation of the same.
Is it related to Janjaweed in any way? Hope not.
Let him tell us. Is it?
Well, the thematic path that I have followed in the last few weeks has been looking at the regions of this continent that we refer to as the Coup Belt. And what it is that has given them the infamy. And we looked, it is tragic that many of the countries on this continent that are constantly at internal war with themselves are also very well-to-do countries. They are rich. They have minerals. They have resources. So it begs the question, what's the conflict about? You're looking at DRC, you're looking at Rwanda, you're looking at Sudan. Most people don't even know that the third largest producer of gold on the continent is actually Sudan. They don't even know that Sudan has gold. They have copper, they have iron ore, they have industrial minerals. I mean, it's a wealthy country. But when there's turmoil, such as the one we now see, where you have Southern Sudan housing or accommodating over 1 million refugees, this isn't a good thing. And some of it trickled down into Kenya. Okay. Now, we are not specifically special so that we are not beyond such problems. And such problems are created. And usually what creates them? Internal strife and a situation where economically the people are suffering. Sudan has had a total of 7 coups since it got independence in 1958. The proverb. If your relatives are dogs, make a tail for yourself. Tail here is T-A-I-L. But then again, if you did make a tail for yourself and you're a human being, it would then form a tail, T-A-L-E, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Otherwise, they will eat you. I mean, that's exactly what is happening here in Kenya, because if your society becomes corrupt and you try to behave differently, which is not to have a tail, then you are going to find yourself in trouble, because they will turn around and consume you and argue that, you know, you didn't look like one of them. So that is what I think the proverb is telling us, that be careful what society is becoming, because if you do not conform, then there's going to be a price to pay. There
it is. If you don't,
and the price is being paid every day, even here in Kenya, by those who do not conform to what the party bosses, to the president, to government says. And there's a price to pay. Yesterday, I even heard a PS saying that he's going to close down private hospitals. You know, you ask yourself, do you know Article 40 of the Constitution about private property? So it is about, if you do not conform, there is a price you are going to pay if the lawmakers and the people in power are corrupt, are people who do not uphold the Constitution. I would imagine.
Okay. And every now and then we have a segment where we talk about, we speak to the president, called Dear Mr. President. And as we start this conversation this morning, Cyprian, there are many things, those who coined the language will say that there are many balls in the air at the moment. And it would appear as though it's very difficult to land things. There is a lot of criticism in the air. There's speculation which is rife. There is uncertainty amongst many in many different quarters. And there are those who say, well, give those in positions of leadership a chance to then be able to show that they're worth their mettle and that they can do what they said that they would do. So let's start from that point. That we've complained a lot about so many things, so, community, society, across country. Should we be giving the leadership an opportunity to prove that they can actually run the nation and run it well?
Thank you very much, Indu. The people in power are illegitimate. That is the crisis that we have. And we need to resolve. And if you look at the newspaper headlines today, they are saying fooling the country. Because the president and the Honorable Raila Odinga think that they can fool the people. And yet themselves, the president, said that wajinga wameisha Kenya. And yet, Honorable Raila Odinga, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, said Ruto must go because he didn't win the election. And so the question before them, first of all, before I continue, I want to say this, that Ruto's enemy is Raila. And Raila's enemy is actually Ruto. But they are trying to fool themselves that we can't see And we are reporting to them that, Mr. President, prepare to meet the people, because the people of Kenya said last year that you can't kill us and lead us. That is when they withdrew the permission for the president to govern. And so, therefore, my response to the question whether they should be given more time, to do what? To destroy the country further? You spoke about the balls in the air. There are 5 balls in the air. The first one is an economic ball, which is what led to the Gen Z revolution last year. That ball, the president does not have a formula for dealing with it. The second ball is a political ball. It's called the legitimacy ball. The president has lost the social license to operate. The approval rating for the president is 19%. That is the lowest anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world, 19%. That's the lowest anywhere in the world. So the president is running on empty, and he knows it. Everywhere he goes, he's being told he must go. He's being cheered out. He's being shouted down. He's actually arguing with little children in marketplaces who are telling him go, and he's telling them keep quiet. The president doesn't have the social license to operate. That is the political crisis that the country is faced with. And what has he done? He has turned on institutions to intimidate the institutions so that they can look us on the other side as he misgoverns and malgoverns the country. The third ball is a social ball. The healthcare crisis, the education crisis, the agriculture crisis. And this goes on and on. And the president does not have an answer. Why? Because he's the one who actually came in as with this administration and destroyed the framework that was working. Instead of improving on it, he destroyed all the frameworks that were there for education, for healthcare, etc. The fourth crisis we have as a country is one of cohesion. Because the president has done all the ukabila, the ethnic appointments, and now he has brought in the broad-based government to try and address that problem. It's only getting worse, because that is what was holding the country together as the glue. So the last crisis that we have right now is the demographic crisis. You have a generation where nearly 68% of the youth below the age of 25 are unemployed. 68% is a massive population.
Absolutely.
So these young people with degrees, with diplomas, with ICT, access to AI, access to smartphones, access to all this, and they are sitting in their mothers' and fathers' houses. They don't even have food. They don't even have money. So they are suffering from mental health illnesses, and they are involved in a lot of challenges. How do you deal with this population which is saying, we can't allow you to continue, when you do not have a single answer to these 5 balls that are in the air? The massive unemployment, the political crisis, the economic crisis, the social crisis. The president has even lost the church, which was his pillar, his main pillar of political leadership. So now he has lost that. So he doesn't have anything. Even the ethnic arrangement that he had, he has lost the mountain. So the president is simply, running on empty. And he is not accepting that. So we've gotten to a place where complaining is no longer the way to do it. So to Mr. President, we are saying, prepare for this year so that the people of Kenya decide whether you are going to continue to govern or they are going to get a transitional government to lead us for the next 2 years until 2027. Because that is what, and that's why I carried my constitution, that is what Article 1 provides us. That the people can exercise the power through directly or indirectly through elected representatives.
Yes.
Elected representatives in parliament do not represent the people of Kenya anymore. So what are we going to do? We are going to have to rely on ourselves so that we exercise the Article 1 power and form a government through a referendum which will lead the country until 2027 August.
Now, Cyprian, as we have this conversation, there is the aspect of Kenyans went and voted for this government to be in office.
Correct.
And that was based off the promises that they gave to Kenyans, 200 and something. So the other day, only 14% of that has been achieved. But here then we are, the government coming around, teaming up with the opposition, which begs the question, at what point did the government ever imagine that those who opposed their policies would be the ones to come save the day?
You ask a very important question, and that is why some of my friends, including Tata, yesterday was saying something that we have been discussing with behind the closed doors, that actually this government is so illegitimate, they do not even know the basis of why they are in power. Because the vote that they got in 2022 has been withdrawn by the people of Kenya. And you saw it last year. So from last year, the president does not know what is putting him in office. Maybe it's the police, maybe it's I don't know. No. And the only second thing that is keeping him in office is that ODM has contributed MPs for him in parliament. And that's where they have been accommodated. So this is a private arrangement for a public governance. That is the crisis of legitimacy that I spoke about. Because what is the basis upon which Raila and Ruto's government is going to stand? What is the basis of that governance if we are still operating within the constitution and the vote that you received has been withdrawn? Can men in a private room say that, they have rejected us, let us now broaden this thing and get CT and get somebody else, and now we come out and say, oh, look, we are now ready to govern you better.
All inclusive.
All inclusive.
But Cyprian, consider,
have we given you the mandate? You must seek the mandate.
Cyprian, consider, there is, if I may add to what you've said, something called the tyranny of habit.
The tyranny of habit.
If a citizenry are accustomed to treating the leaders in a certain way, what then happens is they probably don't even notice that they're being taken advantage of, or the goodwill is being taken advantage of. You ask the question, who is it that is giving this particular government legitimacy? It is the citizenry.
Not at all.
You see, if you consider when people talk to you politely and tell you, we would like this changed, they are telling you what they would like. Now, how do you interpret that? The actions you speak of amounts to an interpretation of what it is that the citizenry have said, okay? And the interpretation, the citizenry are not fed up, they're just telling us they want change. Now, if you're asked to change, you will change within the comfort of what it is you understand to be change. You will do what you've done before, you'll do what you think ought to bring about the change that is required. Now that's where now listening comes in, because what you think is what is required, the citizen will be telling you, no, that's actually not what we want.
The 3 C's, as we call them in change management, there are 3 factors that drive change. Change happens when there's crisis. Crisis is one of the biggest drivers of change. The second driver of change is called chance. The third factor or force of change is called choice. Now, CT is right. So Honorable Raila, for example, has been doing these handshakes from time to time. That's the tyranny of habit.
Every time.
Every time. Is that handshake acceptable this time around? The answer is no. How do you know that? Raila Odinga, for example, got 70% of the vote in Kisii. You've gone there, you've seen they are saying, Raila must go, Baba must go. What is that telling him? It is telling him that his latest moves are no longer approved by the people who voted for him. So they have actually withdrawn. They are asking him, you are going to Ruto and signing memorandums of understanding to form government with him based on what? We don't support that memorandum. And
or
that is
endorse you for that matter.
That is what we want to take to the referendum. If Raila and Ruto believe, that's the crisis I'm talking about. There are three ways change is brought. Change is brought by crisis, it is brought by choice, it is brought by chance. They want to use chance to create another handshake. And the people are saying, no, we are not going to accept that. So we are saying in July this year, IBC is coming into place in April. We are going to go to the referendum and we'll be asking the people of Kenya, do you want the broad-based government to govern you until the end of the term? Do their policies, the continuation of SHA and the education funding model and the unemployment and the high taxes, and we call them the 6 pain points, are they ready to allow these people, if they say no, if the people of Kenya say we don't want them to continue, then we are going to form a transitional government to carry the country until the end of the term.
It sounds like so bread and butter, the way you say it.
It is there. It's there in the Constitution.
I understand that, yeah. But also coming from a place whereby, for a lot of times the Constitution and what it says, to many is a suggestion that there's a book and you're going to put it off. There's a book of, rules.
You refer to it
every now and then, but the rest is going to be gathering dust on the shelf. Right? As opposed to looking at as the supreme law. So when I hear you say these things, Cyprian, I hear you saying like, okay, well, for an IBC to come into place in April, we're going to give them a minute to get accustomed to the seat, and then we're going to come in July, and then we're going to have a referendum, and that folks who are sitting in power are going to acquiesce to the results of the referendum, and then we're going to keep it moving. You make it sound like it's just...
Cyprian, how do you walk towards the referendum?
It's very simple. By the way, the reason you'll see me speaking about things about Kenya is because I was there. I was part of the making of this constitution.
Yes, you were.
And unfortunately, Ruto was on the other side, opposing it. So he actually did not understand what we were passing. And then he was given the chance.
So what was he opposing if he didn't understand it?
No. He was doing politics. He was not doing the Grundnorm. We were doing the Grundnorm. He was doing politics. All right? I can tell you some of the things that he told me from that period, because we were very close friends on the no side in 2005. So what I'm saying is that when you see the president standing on top of those cars, that is a very worried man. But he has to project a face of a great confidence that things are now starting to move. No. The truth of the matter, when it comes to how this constitution works, is that anybody who tries to go against this constitution is going to hurt themselves. They will have to break down and submit to this constitution. That's why when Lou spoke about the balls in the air and the crisis that we find ourselves in, there's going to be a serious fight back. There's going to be these guys who are in power and who are being accommodated are not going to say, oh yes, let's go to the referendum and then we are ready to go. No, they are going to fight. And we are telling them, come out and fight for your lives. Be on the side of the referendum which is saying, let us continue. And let the people of Kenya decide in their ballot. So it's not going to be a walk in the park, but we are made of the material and stuff that has withstood Moi, that has withstood Kibaki and his high-level blunders, that has stood Uhuru and his misadventure. And we are going to live up to, already we have seen what Ruto is made of. So we are ready. And this is how countries, by the way, are fashioned. This is how countries are built. Countries are not built in some cloudy, dark place without... No. This is a real work of nation building. This is what we call nation building. This is when people are starting to understand what the Constitution actually says. Like that gentleman who the PS for Minister of Health is going to now know what Article 40 of the Constitution says. He doesn't know. I am sure he does not know.
Otherwise, he wouldn't be making such pronouncements.
Otherwise, he would not be making those kinds of pronunciations. So when he makes those kinds of pronouncements is when we actually tell him that, gentlemen, you were not there when we were making the Constitution. Please go to the internet and refer to Article 40 of the Constitution. And then he realizes that it is folly. All that he has been doing is folly. So this is an address to the president. So, Mr. President, your enemy is actually the Honorable Raila and ODM.
And vice versa.
Let's take a break.
And the Honorable Raila's enemy is not the people of Kenya. It is William Ruto. It is William Ruto who decampaigned him at the African Union, and he has brought him back home so that he can try to use him. And Raila is going along with that. Who is going to suffer? It is Raila. So his enemy, he should not look very far. His enemy is actually in the same room with him, is in the signing of the MOU.
Wow.
Yeah. He's setting him up. He's setting him up against the people of Kenya. And they are going to have a day on the ballot to actually see what the people of Kenya say about that unholy marriage.
Looking into conversations as we come to have them in a few minutes, is that, do you think that the people of Kenya actually want the president to succeed at this work that he's been given to do by them? Do they want him to do to do better? Do they want him to actually say, you know what, okay, things seem to be falling apart. We want you to put together Humpty Dumpty again, essentially. And we'll come back and look at that question when we come back from this break. Cyprian Nyamamu is the executive director of Future Kenya Foundation, and we're having a conversation, dear Mr. President, this morning about the things that we see happening in the country, and we'll come back and also ask the question, Cyprian, all right, are there those who then can be in a position for proper leadership if we're saying that this current one isn't working? 27 minutes to 8, we'll be back after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi, 17 degrees. It's 13 and sunny in Nakuru, and 15 and sunny in Nyeri. Eldoret is sunny at 15 degrees. We'll see highs of 25. And Mombasa sunny at 27. We'll go to highs of 33. It's 27 and sunny in Malindi, going to highs of 33. While at 19, it's sunny in Kisumu with highs of 30. It's going to go to highs of 30 in a sunny Kakamega, currently at 17. Sunny conditions at 19 in Kampala, while at 26, it's sunny in Dar es Salaam. And 14 in Johannesburg, going to highs of 20. While at 28 in a sunny Mogadishu, we'll see highs of 32. Sunny at 15 in Addis Ababa with highs of 24, while Lagos is cloudy at 28. We'll see highs of 34, and we'll see highs of 32 in a partly cloudy Kinshasa at 25.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
All right, we're clicking in on traffic hour this morning, and the Eastern Bypass is rife with traffic. Folks are trying to get towards either North Airport Road, branch off Outer Ring, or find their way out towards the Cabanas interchange. So that's doing what it's doing over there. Jogoo Road is also busy as you go out towards Landis. That's going to be busy as you come round Kamkunji. And then coming off the Thika Superhighway, we've got quite some traffic coming in from Garden City, and it's bumper to bumper as you get through Survey. And onto Kiambu Road, where we see some traffic getting through towards Muthaiga Square, all coming in from the Northern Bypass, which has its bits and bobs as well. We're going to watch out for that. Limuru Road seems to be perennial bumper to bumper, so we're going to watch that. With the expansion of the road, it's likely to happen. Also, as you come off Lower Kabete through towards Spring Valley and parts of Wayaki Way, we still see some traffic here as well. Gong Road is busy coming in from Karen, and also on Naivasha Road. We're going to keep an eye on all of this as we're into traffic hour. We'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Our guest in the hot seat this morning is Cyprian Nyamamu, and he's the Executive Director of the Future Kenya Foundation. And having this conversation about where we are today and speaking to the President, I would ask the question, Cyprian, well, first of all, coming from the place that it's been said, I mean, many have written a book when we talk about looking at things like the foundations of international relations, when we look at the foundations of nations and how they've actually been built. Governments had a core responsibility to make sure that their people are taken care of, that the people are fed, that the infrastructure that's needed for them to survive is provided, that the children are educated, that the sick are cared for, and that many a scholar have said that governments have no business doing anything else apart from those things. If you have not taken care of those fundamentals for your people, of course, securing your borders and things like that, you have no business doing anything else.
Exactly.
And if we take that into consideration, do you think then that Kenyans want President Ruto to do better? If he did, if his generals, if the people whom he's appointed to sit over these different sectors are actually getting it right, would you have the kind of furor that we see in the country today?
Well, that's a very important question. And I want to say an important response to that question. The people of Kenya are very... We pride ourselves as to be the number one democracy on the continent. South Africa could be having a good constitution like ours, but they do not have what we call the liberation credentials that we have.
What is that?
We are a Mau Mau. We are a Mau Mau. We are a Mau Mau nation. So let me tell you one. So we know when something is right from the beginning. President Mwai Kibaki came in 2003 January. He had just survived an accident. But what he did was to move in the right direction. Before you ask about speed and things, we ask about direction. Has he taken the right direction? Because if your journey is to Bungoma, and then we find you somewhere near Emali, and you are telling us that, give us a little bit more time. No, we have to stop you because you have been moving in the wrong direction for the last 2.5 years. So we are at a place where we are saying you took the wrong direction. And so asking for more time to move further in the wrong direction, we will never go to Bungoma.
Okay, but what if I am at Imali and I have said I want to turn around and I want to go back to Bungoma? And this is what we're saying. If the people see that you're making every effort to turn around, if they see that you're going around, then do we say, fine, you're going to stay in the driver's seat and keep going at the thing?
The president is getting it wrong even more. With every working day, I don't know whether you've been observing that.
Essentially, what you're saying is the president now is in Mtito Ande.
Is actually added to Mtito Ande because on SHA and healthcare, he is not listening to the people of Kenya and what they are saying about the healthcare. On education, he is not even sending capitation to schools. On the CBC, you can see the floundering that is happening. I saw a memorandum from the Institute of Engineers of Kenya yesterday. The president does not listen to the people of Kenya. On the budget, you saw last year on the finance bill that 93% of Kenyans said the finance bill is wrong for the economy because we are dealing with a post-COVID recovery. This finance bill is going to worsen our situation. So don't pass it. What did they say? Wacha nione mwenye hatapitisha. That's what the president said. And so the MPs went to parliament and gave him what he wanted and not what the people of Kenya wanted. So let me say this. The problem with the president is that he lost trust the Kenyans don't trust him. They actually don't believe that he's sincere. They don't believe that he's truthful. They even don't believe that he's committed to this country. Because once you've lost trust, which is in Article 75 of the Constitution, if you run your affairs and bring dishonor to the office and you lose the trust to govern, then you have actually lost your social license to operate. And that is what the president is suffering from. When the young people of this country, who are 70%, tell you that you cannot kill us and lead us. So who is this who's asking the president to continue? They have said Ruto must go. That is what I see in all rallies. He speaks when he was going around Nairobi. He says something, they say, Uongo, Uongo, Uongo. They are saying you are a liar. But it's not the youth who say that he's a liar. It's the bishops. In October 14th, last year, they are the ones who said, you lie. We no longer can trust anything that you say. So let me ask you, which sector of the 8 sectors in this country any longer believes that President Ruto is saying the truth, they can trust him, and they can allow him to continue to lead? That is the question before the country. And how do you resolve when you come to those kinds of junctions in history? You use the Constitution. You do not go out of the Constitution. You go back to the Constitution and you present a simple referendum. And the people exercise their power directly, because MPs in Parliament no longer represent the people. They do everything the people say don't do, they do. Everything the people say, tell them, do this, they don't do. They instead do what the president has ordered them to do. So we've lost Parliament. And so we are at a place where we have to rescue the soul of our nation. We have to rescue the foundation of our democracy. And the way to restore the foundation of our democracy is not to continue with this charade of MOUs and handshakes and whatnot. You go back to the people and you exercise Article 1 and put a referendum out there in the people and say, these are the 6 pain points. The leadership that we have can no longer address these issues. Do you want a transitional government to take us to 2027? And who are those people who can be in the transitional government? And then ensure and make it very clear that the people who are going to be in the transitional government will not be on the ballot in 2027. You make it very clear.
Cyprian, walk us through this process of a referendum.
Yes.
How, we've had one. What are the steps that lead to a referendum being instituted? And how is a referendum instituted?
A referendum is instituted according to Article 257 of the Constitution. And this is a popular initiative. And so you collect 1 million signatures. And once you collect 1 million signatures, you IBC forwards the constitutional amendment, the one that is going to be taken to the referendum. You take it to the county assemblies.
Also, they have to.
Yeah.
If 1 million
It's a
signatures
popular
are presented to the IEBC, they have no choice but to take it.
No, they don't have a choice.
Forward. Okay.
These are our servants.
All right.
Yeah, so you can't stop the exercise of sovereign power. It is not possible. Yeah, you can't overthrow the Constitution and stay in office. What will you be governing? What will you be the basis of your governance? So once you collect the signatures, IBC forwards the bill to the county assemblies, and the county assemblies, 24 of them, have to approve. And once they approve, you get 50% of parliament, and you do the referendum. And once you do the referendum, what I have seen in the ideas that are being proposed is that you convene a sovereign people's convention, which elects the transitional government for 2 years.
Okay. Who would this government be? Who would make up this government? Who is this person that Kenyans would say, all right, step in now until you sort it out? Or do you set up an ad hoc committee to run things for the next 2 years?
No.
What do you do?
You have to get a transitional president and a transitional deputy president. They have to constitute a cabinet properly. And the only thing that we are saying about the transitional people is that they cannot be eligible to run for office in 2027. Why? Because then they will go again back to the same conflict of interest problem that we are trying to run away from.
But how do you get this transitional president and all this entire transition?
Part of the bill is providing for the convening of a sovereign people's convention. That is what Article 1 means. That then you have to provide for the convening of a sovereign people's convention. People from all the 47 counties have to sit. Elected women, youth, farmers, livestock producers, etc., business people, private sector, religious, they all come to a sovereign people's convention. And that sovereign people's convention is established according to Article 1. That is how you exercise sovereign people's power. And once they meet, then they elect the transitional president. And that transitional president is told, Madam or Sir, you will only serve for 2 years. And this is the mandate of the transitional government. It has to address the 6 pain points that the people are suffering today. This is what the people are the ones who are telling the transitional government. This is what we want about healthcare. This is what we want about education. This is what we want about tax. This is what we want about the economy and creating employment. This is what we want about regional integration and foreign policy. The people guide the transitional government for the 2 years until we get to 2027, and then an election is conducted on the Tuesday of August 2027. And all these people, including William Ruto, can offer himself in 2027. Yeah, even Raila. All of them, they are free to offer themselves in 2027. What we are saying is that the country has collapsed, has failed. The government has so fundamentally failed because of the corruption, the wastage, the abductions, the taxes, and so on and so forth. We have ground to a halt. So let us rescue ourselves, get a transitional authority, a transitional government, a transitional president, fix our problems and prepare for elections. We don't even know whether we have a voter register. We have to sort out a lot of things with somebody who does not have an interest in 2027. That is what we are saying. We must be taken to 2027 by a government that does not have an interest in running for office in 2027. That is the bottom line. That's the underlying philosophy of transitional arrangements.
You know, we've never had such a thing on this continent.
No, in the continent we have had so many.
Of what you've just said?
Of transitional governments.
But have they been civilian?
Yes, they have been civilian.
Like which one?
Benin. Actually, the whole idea of a sovereign people's convention is a French idea that has now been adopted very widely in many other arrangements. So Benin is the one which started in 1991. Guinea had it in the following year, I think. And we've seen it being practiced. Even when you've seen in Kenya, we have a crisis. What we normally do is that we come together and we agree on some kind of government, even in Zimbabwe, even in Ivory Coast. So this is nothing that is foreign. We have already practiced bombers in 2004. And so it is something that is so part of democratic practice, and we are only providing for it for purposes of stopping the decline and the crisis that the country finds itself in. Where you have a president who lacks legitimacy and is going everywhere where he's being told, Wongo must go, Wongo must go. He's trying to get somebody to donate legitimacy to him, which he does not have. So how do you get yourself out of the hole? You stop digging.
Yet, as we talk about this entire process of getting to a referendum, one of the key aspects of it is we need half of Parliament for it to pass.
Yeah.
Right. And as we sit right now, we know what is happening in the National Assembly. It's pretty much has been taken over. So at that particular point, the entire conversation about referendum would depend on what the members of Parliament would do, if at all they are with the people. But that notwithstanding as well, if you look at the presence of IEBC, it is not in place. So a lot of hurdles for us to get to a point where you say we have a referendum and it will follow through the processes as enshrined in the Constitution. But that notwithstanding as well, you're talking about a president that does not listen, but question is, can he regain trust and do right by the people? And when he does that, will all this noise just shut down?
I don't know where your faith comes from. I know we are in the Jubilee year.
One's got to be optimistic.
No, I don't know where you get this from, because as I told you, you have to listen to the people for you to know, and you have to listen to the president, whether there is change in behavior or whether there's something. The president comes and says, we've stopped all public officers and state officers from doing Harambes in charge. What's the date? 29th of July. It's there. That is policy. That is state policy. It has come from the president himself. Then the president comes and says, those who are opposed to us giving money are actually agents of the devil. Here is 20 million, we are going to give you 100 million more. So this president does not even believe his own policy. Even the policy that he himself makes, he doesn't follow it. Leave alone what the Constitution says. Leave alone what the institutions of this government, of this country offers. So President Ruto, as I told you, has completely lost trust to govern. And the social license to operate has been withdrawn. That is why everywhere he goes, you've seen the consistent thing that is the feedback from the people. So who are these people you are talking about? I don't know who you are talking about. The people of Kenya have said, we are tired with this kind of administration. You can't kill us. You can't steal from us, because you have to go back to the people and ask what. And that's the work I do. That's what we do at the Future of Kenya Foundation. That's what we do at Kenya Bora to Itakayo. We go around the country in the 47 counties and get the people's perspectives. When I tell you that 83% of Kenyans are saying the country is headed in the wrong direction, and the question we ask them there, who is responsible for this country going in the wrong direction? 69% of them say it is the president. Who is leading the country in the wrong direction? That's why 83% of us believe we are headed in the wrong direction. So it's the people of Kenya who are saying this. So it is now time for the people of Kenya to exercise their constitutional sovereign power and resolve the crisis that we are in, so that we can get an agent who governs according to the Constitution. It is as simple as that.
There's some people who argue, and I mean, just think about any position that you've been given something to do. You don't have the choice to sit around and say, well, I'm going to do my bare minimum, or I'm going to, mess things up, monumentally as much as I can, and expect to remain in that position.
No, you can't.
But what usually happens is that they're going to give you an opportunity to set yourself right. I keep forgetting what that thing is. It's called what? PIP. So you're given, thank you.
PIP.
Yes. You're given an opportunity to fix it. Usually 3 months, somebody will give you 6 months to kind of work it out. And they say, no, you don't. And I'm of the opinion that leaving usually is an easy escape route. That you cock things up monumentally, and then somebody says, okay, that's fine, you can just take a walk. And so that's why, to an extent, I don't agree with the Ruto must go, because it's an easy escape for you to say that.
No, if
you've not been able to get your generals in place,
he's going to be held accountable for everything that he has done.
And this is what I'm saying, that you should actually do the work. you should make sure, and because of the fact that you're in a position of authority, that you give people under you that authority, it then cascades. Whether you have cabinet secretaries, whether you have principal secretaries, whether you have governors, whether you have members of parliament, that you cascade that authority through these individuals.
Let
so
the people
them
of
not
Kenya,
working,
let the people wait for the referendum and
I hear
say
what you're
we
saying.
want Ruto to continue for the next 2 years.
Cyprian, that not working is a direct reflection on the individual who has appointed these people. And I'm not talking about elected positions as members of parliament.
No, the appointed
the
positions.
appointed positions are the areas where we see the problems today. Now, some of those issues have been inherited. The education crisis did not start in this administration. Many would argue that the health crisis, although we have a big symptom in Shah, did not begin with this administration. That we have seen administration after administration fail the people, but it would appear as though right now is when Kenyans are most, borrowing a phrase, woke, and are saying, we're not going to allow this anymore on our watch. So, don't go means sit here and sort this thing out, or never dream of being in this position again. But when are we going to stop saying that an easy exit or an exit is then an easy way to get rid of this responsibility? And that's why I'm saying that you're given a position, you're given a job, you must be held accountable for that thing that you've been given to do. Are we wrong on that?
No, a lot of people get jailed when they actually violate the trust. You ran on a promise. You promised. The reason President Ruto knew all these issues are there. And he published a manifesto, very big manifesto. I don't know whether you get time to go through it. I do that every 3 months. It's part of the work that I do. To go through the UDA manifesto and see what the president said he was going to do across all the 23 areas that is in the manifesto. And the promise, he has not kept the promise. So 1 year came and they said, we are going to do better. And we saw that in every of those areas, he had taken the wrong direction. Not even what he promised. What he promised, he went against it. We are going to lower taxes, he increased taxes. We are going to do this about healthcare, he went against it. About education, he went against it. So you cannot not keep your promise and then say, let us give him a chance to do what? To continue breaking the promise?
Cyprian, there's something that you mentioned regarding change in the laws of change, something called chance.
Yeah. Yes.
Dennis asked a question. What if? What if plays heavily on chance? And in politics, we've seen it. At the time when President Moi was about to exit, it was a period when many presidents on this continent extended their terms, even when they knew this is what the Constitution said. They even changed the Constitution. Okay? Many did not believe that President Moi would leave. He left. Many people did not even believe that President Moi would accept the multi-party government. He did. Role of chance. One could give many examples. Our lived experience is exactly as you said. But if we bring in a discussion of chance, there's always that chance.
Silver lining.
Yes, that the president may actually decide to do the very thing we say he cannot do and change.
Yeah, the chance for President Ruto was last year, July, after the Gen Z. They gave him a chance. Kenyans gave him a chance. They said, sack this cabinet. These people are incompetent. Get them off and get us a new cabinet. This is your chance. At 2 years, this is your chance to start afresh. What did he do? He lost the opportunity to re-engineer, to relaunch his presidency. You know why? Because you cannot fight a system that you benefit from. The corruption that is going on, the stealing, the looting, the privatization that has been going on is the reason why President Ruto is incapable. And I want to conclude by saying the following, which is we are in the Lenten period here in Kenya. You know, the Bible says that you cannot, a good tree cannot produce bad fruit. And a bad tree cannot produce good fruit. That is in Matthew chapter 7 and verse 18.
So, Bishop.
Yeah. The reason this is so important is because we behave like we do not know the track records of our people. There is a track record for everybody. This track record is very public. I am going to run for the Nairobi governorship in 2027. There is my track record. It is very public. There is also President William Ruto's track record from 1992 when he was in YK 92.
Yeah.
That track record has spanned 33 years. What does it say? What is Raila Odinga's track record? What are our track records? What are the people's track records? This is what when you say he's going to change, the 33 years don't say that.
A lot of stuff to take into consideration, many things to think about, emotions aside. Cyprian, we want to thank you for being here this morning. Cyprian Yamamu is the Executive Director at Kenya Forward Foundation, Future Kenya Foundation rather, and we've been talking about a lot of things this morning and looking at what direction the country is actually taking. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you so much.
Good morning. It's 8:01.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. President William Ruto and his wife Rachel will this morning welcome the Dutch King and Queen to State House, Nairobi, for a formal ceremony where 21 cannons will be fired in honor of the head of state. They'll thereafter hold a meeting that will see them sign MOUs in sectors such as tourism, trade, agriculture and transport to enhance further investment opportunities. Thereafter, the King and Queen of the Netherlands will attend a wreath-laying ceremony in honor of Kenyans who contributed to the freedom and liberation of this nation at Uhuru Gardens. As part of a plan to grow 15 billion trees by 2032, the two will plant a tree in Nairobi this afternoon. President William Ruto has pledged to implement more reforms to ensure efficiency in the National Police Service. Speaking at State House in Nairobi at the presentation of the final report of the outgoing National Police Service Commission, President Ruto commended the Commission for its contribution to ongoing police reforms and human resource management. However, President Ruto cited remaining challenges that need to be addressed urgently, such as irregular recruitment of police officers, budgetary constraints, and the need for a sustainable police welfare plan.
The automation of police recruitment, as you have explained broadly, the expansion of civilian staffing to improve service delivery and to tap into professional capabilities, the determination of promotions of thousands of officers and the review of remuneration are just a few examples of your impact and your legacy. Even as we acknowledge these successes, we also recognize the challenges that remain and demand our urgent focus and attention. Issues such as irregular police recruitment, budgetary constraints, and the need for a sustainable police welfare program must be addressed without equivocation.
Presenting the report, NPSC Chairman Eliud Kinuthia noted that the Commission recruited 10,932 new police officers to bring the police force into balance.
The Commission recruited 10,932 new police officers to bring the police population ratio of 1:509 net of natural attritions over the period. Further, we recruited 1,128 civilian staff of the National Police Service to assist police officers with basically professional areas and support lines so that the officers can concentrate on securing mwananchi and the property in this country.
And finally, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi has called for renewed and concerted efforts to address the worsening humanitarian and security crisis in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. He emphasized that the situation remains fragile, with escalating conflict evolving into threats such as sexual exploitation, abuse, gender-based violence as a weapon of war, illicit resource trafficking, and the erosion of state institutions. Speaking in Harare, Zimbabwe, where he co-chaired the joint ministerial meeting between the East African Community and the Southern African Development Community, Mudavadi highlighted the need for urgent intervention. The meeting reviewed progress on the implementation of resolutions adopted by the heads of state and government in Dar es Salaam in February regarding the deteriorating security and humanitarian situation in Eastern DRC. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
The weather with SpiceFM.
17 degrees and sunny conditions in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 27. We'll see highs of 26 in a sunny Nakuru. It's 15 and sunny in Nyeri with highs of 25, while at 15 sunny in Eldoret with highs of 25. It is 17 and sunny into Kakamega, while at 19 it's sunny in Kisumu. 27 in Malindi with highs of 33, while Mombasa at 27 will be sunny through Tuesday. 19 and sunny into Kampala, while Dar es Salaam at 26 is sunny. Johannesburg cloudy at 14, with Mogadishu sunny at 28 and Addis Ababa sunny at 15. It's 28 and cloudy into Lagos with partly cloudy conditions at 25 in Kinshasa.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Good morning. It's 7 minutes after 8 o'clock and into Kenya's biggest conversations, third hour this morning. I know, difficult conversations, they must be had. Sometimes the discourse is not comfortable. Sometimes you have to bring up things that not everybody is you're not sure how to navigate. But one of the things that we do is to make sure we keep those conversations front and center. It is necessary to have that discourse, because once you do that, I keep saying one of two things happen. Number one, people keep talking, or number two, people now act. And that is what you need to do. If you keep quiet, you don't do yourself a service. And that's why Kenya's biggest conversation exists, for us to continue having conversations about things that matter. And we'll be having another one this hour. But before that, imagine biting into your favorite foods again without the fear of pain. That stone cold ice cream or that super hot coffee just the way you like it. You don't have to imagine it anymore, because Sensodyne is here to give you the ultimate relief from tooth sensitivity. Now, how do we know about this? Well, it's because the number one recommended brand by dentists, and the World Oral Health Day coming. And with the World Oral Health Day coming up, we are reminding you that a happy mouth is a happy mind. And to get this, Sensodyne is giving you 50% off on select products to keep your teeth strong. Grab your pack from any Carrefour, Naivas, Chandarana or Quick Mart stores only from the 20th to the 23rd of March. Remember, Sensodyne for tooth sensitivity relief and everyday oral health. That's for you to remember. And we are getting into a conversation this hour that's a combination of issues, social issues, health issues, and our good friends from Kemri Wellcome Trust joining us again this morning in the person of Dr. Caroline Tigoi. And we're going to be looking at how children get infections that are resistant to treatment, a big issue in Kenya, in the region and in many parts of the world. But she joins us this morning. Good morning, Dr. Tigoi.
Good morning to you.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Do we say welcome to Nairobi, or are you in Nairobi? Or
I'm in Nairobi.
You're in Nairobi. Sometimes our friends from Kemri are coming from different parts of the country, but we're glad that you've joined us here this morning. And we're going to be looking at an issue that's a big pain point for a lot of people, whether it's in the medical field or whether it's parents and their children. And so we're going to dive into that this morning. But before we do, we're going to welcome you to Kenya's biggest conversation. CT has a proverb. He goes to a different African country every week, and he comes back with proverbs. And I always say, like, as if you don't have enough work to do, we're going to put you to work this morning. And he's going to give you that proverb, and then we'd like you to interpret that for us and tell us what that meaning would be for you. Is that okay?
That's okay.
All right.
We are in the third largest country in Africa. It's called the Sudan. It's interesting. It's actually located in the confluence of the Blue and the White Nile. You know, what we call rivers here are probably streams. If you look at the Congo River, that thing is massive. The Nile, as it snakes up and goes towards Egypt, massive. Third largest producer of gold on the continent, Sudan. All this is marred by the constant conflicts. 7 times since independence in 1958, it has had coups and counter coups.
Yep.
The proverb for this beautiful country of Sudan: if your relatives are dogs, make a tail for yourself.
Wow. That's an interesting one. Yes, I'm not very good in proverbs, but I'll give an attempt.
That is all we require.
Yes.
And it's your interpretation. Don't think of what you think I want to hear. No, I want your interpretation.
So could you go again? You said...
I will repeat it even 10 times.
Okay.
If your relatives are dogs, make a tail for yourself.
So sometimes you could have so dogs like to bark.
They would definitely do.
And you have to, and they also wag the tail a lot, so you have to get to study them and get to know them and know how to survive, because they would like to make a lot of noise by barking. So you have to learn your environment and learn how to survive in your environment.
You have put it so well. Why were you hesitant? You are a natural interpreter of proverbs.
Thank you.
Fantastic. You got to learn how to survive.
Yes.
And it's always interesting how we can make the connection between what someone's interpretation of a proverb is and how we can connect that to the conversations that we have. Yeah. When we look at the medical field and we look at infections, especially with children, these things have a way of surviving, from child to child. It's crazy. When children are home on holiday, everything is perfect. The minute they step into school,
yes,
they come back home in the evening sneezing and a host of other things.
True.
And then that whole thing starts to move and move and move. And that you'll find that, and I was saying it earlier this morning, you find that if you now should visit somebody else whose child was sick, you'll find that if it's in the same region, medical doctors or pharmacies are giving out kind of like the same medicine at around that time. You'll even find that it is the same medication or the same company that's being prescribed for these children at that time. Yep. So that's what we're talking about this morning. And we're looking at then, why do we see that infections amongst children are getting more virulent and that they are not then... they're actually now becoming resistant to treatment.
Yep.
So let's start off from the very beginning here, where we ask, what are these infections that we are seeing, and why do we see that resistance is actually building from treatment?
Okay, so to start us off, first of all, infections are very common in children because of their vulnerable immune system. And again, the challenges we have in the low middle income countries, including malnutrition. So whenever these children go to school, as you've said, clearly said, there's that opportunity to interact, and there's transmission happening, there's overcrowding in school, and therefore infections spread easily. But then again, there's a lot of overuse of antibiotics. These antibiotics are medications that are used for treatment of bacteria. But again, when we talk about school-going children, they get other infections that could be caused by viruses that do not require antibiotics. So therefore, we end up having overuse of antibiotics in our setting. So people do self-medication, as you've said. Some pharmaceutical companies would even be encouraging some doctors to prescribe specific antimicrobials because they want to sell it. But again, the challenge that we have with our children is that these infections sometimes develop resistance. So if you're overusing it, it means you're using it for an infection that you do not require antibiotics. If you have flu, for example, you don't need an antibiotic. So due to overuse, these bacteria are very smart. They develop resistance. They get used to the infection. Some people also use these antibiotics and they do not finish the dose. Or you use an antibiotic, a wrong antibiotic for the wrong infection and the wrong dosage. So then bacteria are very smart. They get used to these antibiotics and develop resistance. And therefore, that's the reason why we are having infections that are difficult to treat in our setting.
Dr. Tell me, how do you get to understand as a simple parent what ailments to just tough out? You toughen it out. You drink water, drink porridge, drink soup.
Eat an orange.
Eat a banana and run around the house 3 times. And then
put an onion in your sock or whatever.
Or something of that sort, yes, or put a balance of tomato on your head. When do you know that all you need to do is perhaps feed this child right, build the immune system, and when do you know that this child needs medication?
So we would discourage self-medication and therefore would encourage these mothers when they see their child having specific symptoms, especially when they are developing like fever. That's, I think, when you need to go to hospital. And when you get to hospital, we would also encourage the clinicians to test these children to confirm whether they have a viral infection or they have a bacterial infection before they prescribe an antibiotic. So what we are lacking in our current setting is that we do not have laboratories where we can test before we prescribe. So what our clinicians mostly do is just looking at the clinical symptoms and then they prescribe an antibiotic, which may not be necessary if it is just flu.
So this resistance to treatment, would you say that it is largely caused by human interventions?
Yes, it is caused by human interventions, and an example would be overuse in our clinical setting because we lack diagnosis. Number 2, we are using antibiotics for the wrong infections because, again, we have not confirmed whether it is flu or whether it is a bacterial infection. Again, antimicrobial resistance would come even from the environment. In our research that we've been doing in Cambridge, we've realized that even healthy people in the community would have resistant bacteria, even in their own gut. So we don't know when these bacteria gain entry into our bloodstream and cause an invasive an infection that is going around in the bloodstream.
Okay, so then how do we know? Because I've heard, I mean, just having conversations with people, you hear some crazy stuff, Dr. But these are the things that people believe, we believe them. And then you go to hospital. I mean, I heard somebody say, mtoto wangu ni mgonjwa akona homa kwa tumbo. These are some of the things that we hear. And from a medical point of view, I don't know if that's something that's actually possible for you to have the flu virus in your stomach. But then many things come into play: cost, having to find your way to a medical facility. So you go to the closest chemist or pharmacy and you say, akona homa kwa tumbo. The person who is behind the counter could be none the wiser and says, okay, sawa, niko na antibiotic ya siku 3. You take it, and it's not even. How do you test? How do you be sure that what you are treating for has been properly diagnosed?
So we need at the moment to invest in diagnosis, which we are lacking in our country. So as you've clearly said, people go to the counter. We don't have policies that restrict the use of antibiotics in our setting. You just go to a pharmacy, over the counter, you're given an antibiotic. So the most important thing is to seek proper medical intervention from a clinician who would then, either based on their experience, because we've been doing a lot of awareness even in the hospitals to ensure proper prescribing, what we call antimicrobial stewardship training to clinicians to be able to tell when to prescribe an antibiotic. So I would encourage mothers or people out there not to go to the pharmacy if they have homa ya tumbo. I don't think homa ya tumbo could be viral, as you've said. It cannot be flu in the stomach, but it can be a viral infection that causes either an enteric or problems with the stomach. So sometimes it would be good to just do a simple stool test. Even a simple full blood count can tell you whether this person has a viral infection based on the immune responses that are happening in our body. So you can do a simple full blood count and be able to tell whether it's a viral infection or it's a bacterial infection that requires treatment with antibiotics. So diagnosis is very important, and it's something that our country needs to invest in.
But Doc, as we talk about the resistance and all that, now there is the aspect of what we eat, malnutrition, and how these as well could be a factor of AMR. So then again, how do I know what to eat in making sure that AMR is not a factor? Because then again, Mimi Nanja, I'll eat what I find.
So again, it's about training and awareness and working with the different departments in our ministries to train mothers on what to feed on these children. So if we have a healthy child, so why is malnutrition a problem when it comes to antimicrobial resistance? When you are a malnourished child, your immunity is low. It means you will be spending more time in hospital. And the way antimicrobial resistance spreads is that in the hospitals are sort of a hotbed of very difficult to treat infections. So hospital admission or being admitted in hospital is not a good thing. It's better when you are at home, because when you go into the hospital, you are a malnourished child, your immunity is low, you are going to acquire infection from the hospital environment. So it's quite risky. These children will spend more time in hospital because we are trying to do nutritional recovery. So as you've said, it's very important for our country to invest in food security, so that we don't have many malnourished children who would be dying in hospital because they've spent a lot of time in hospital doing nutritional recovery, and they end up getting a very resistant bacteria that is difficult to treat. And hence, one of the key challenges of antimicrobial resistance is increased mortality, which is mainly affecting vulnerable children and also neonates, because when children are born into hospital, their immunity is not developed. So some children actually are born malnourished or low birth weight, so they have to be readmitted. And when they are admitted, there are so many outbreaks of bacterial infections that are very difficult to treat. And we've seen, even in our setting, up to 40% of these children die. When they are born and admitted, they die in hospital because they've acquired a resistant bacteria.
Can we take a step back?
Yeah.
The role of the mother plays, this is an expectant mother.
Yeah.
The role she plays in the health of this particular child.
The newborn.
Yes, what she eats, what she doesn't eat, if she currently has some ailments, the likelihood of this being passed on to the child.
Yes.
Drugs she uses.
So mothers play a big role in terms of transmission of resistant bacteria. Yes. So again, it would be, we are looking into research where we are trying to develop vaccines that we give to mothers so that we can prevent transmission to newborns during birth. So nutrition is critical, as you've said, so that we get healthy, bouncing children. But then again, there are some factors, biological, during birth, depending on how the child is being born. Sometimes the membranes are rupturing, which could make this newborn acquire infections from the fluids that are rupturing during birth. So if we have vaccines that we can give to mothers, then we can help prevent infections at birth.
How difficult and how expensive is it to set up a diagnostic system within the most basic of healthcare facilities so that one can actually know what it is that they're treating?
So setting up laboratories are very expensive, and because of the equipments that you need in place. So it is a very expensive venture, but what we have seen working is what we are calling the hub and spoke model. You don't have to have a laboratory in every hospital. In Nairobi, we could have one where we refer all the patients to go and get diagnostics. So if our government could have special laboratories within, say, the county governments where people can go and get diagnosed before treatment, that would be really useful. So setting up laboratories and ensuring that they are giving high quality tests and results that can be used for treatment is expensive.
It is.
Yeah, and that's why we don't have them at the moment, but we can have hubs that clinicians can be sending patients to get the results. And
I remember once upon a time in the previous century. No, it was in this century. When I worked for the Kenya Medical Research Institute, when we were testing people for viral load, where you were conducting the taking of samples, you didn't need to have a lab. The specimens were taken elsewhere.
Yes.
And you'd be told, come back after this period of time, you'll get back your results.
Your results, yes.
When you said that, I was reminded. And it worked very well.
Yes, it does work very well.
Yes.
Yeah. So if we have special labs, we invest in few labs that can do proper diagnosis in where people can have access to those laboratories, then we would really prevent the overuse of antibiotics before prescribing before diagnostics. So diagnostics is a very key thing to have. Again, surveillance. When we have laboratories, then we are generating data and we are able to monitor what is happening. You see, bacteria are very smart. Today we'll have this antibiotic, and after a short time they get used to that antibiotic. Then we will need another antibiotic. So we need to monitor when these bacteria are outsmarting the antibiotics. Then we invest also in research where we are developing new therapeutics so that we have more alternatives, because we have at the moment there is no research that is ongoing to develop more therapeutics, so we have very limited number of drugs that we can use, and that's why it's very important to do prevention, first diagnose, prevent by having vaccines, and even creating awareness so that we are not misusing these antibiotics. Or, as you had alluded earlier, people would say, my neighbor used this drug
and it worked.
And it worked. So you go to hospital and you ask the doctor, I need this specific antibiotic, which may not be working for your condition. Or you go to your neighbor, or you share the antibiotic. Or you take the antibiotic for 1 or 2 days and you say, I'm well. So you are training the bacteria to get used to that antibiotic and then develop resistance.
Yet, when you talk about antibiotics and its misuse, it is information that one would expect that when you're going to the counter, because most of it happens over the counter, that the pharmacist, the person at the counter would be able to advise you backed up by policy. Yet it is a problem that does exist. Government has not come in place to give direction on use of antibiotics. But then brings the question on the responsibility of health professionals in making sure that antibiotics are not misused in the Republic. And that as well, I think I'll tie it together with when you talk about malnutrition, because the other day I did a story and it was all about even the foods that we feed our children, the porridges that the flour that we buy has a lot that ends up defeating the cause, because it has a lot of nutrients that end up being heavy metals for the child. So in terms of just communication and information that the public needs is missing.
Yes, we don't have information out there in terms of what the public can, in terms of what they need to. So I'm not an expert in malnutrition, it's a disclaimer. So I would say we need more public awareness on what we need to feed our children on so that they can develop better immunity. And what is important is also giving children foods that are able to boost their immunity, even just vegetables, just fruits that important, because if you're giving them porridge, then you are not giving them the full spectrum of
yes.
what they need to build their immune system. Yeah.
Can you break down the science for us? Because a lot of times, if we don't understand the process, then it's easier for us to just actually go over the counter and use my antibiotics for 3 days. I feel better and I'm done. And even because we're focusing on children today, break down the science for us as to how bacteria then becomes resistant to treatment. Yeah.
So bacteria become resistant in different ways. So as I've said, they are very clever. So again, they would create like an armor, like a wall that would protect them from antibiotics. So they have a very thick wall. So I think when we did our biology, we knew that a cell has a wall. So we have a cell wall. So these bacteria would have a cell wall that is very thick and would not allow antibiotics to pass through.
Okay.
Yeah. Number two, they would also this resistant genetic material. So within a cell, we have DNA. So this DNA can move from one bacteria to another. So bacteria would have a vehicle that they use to transfer resistance from one bacteria to another. So you don't have to have, at the moment when we are studying antimicrobial resistance, we are just looking at this resistant genetic material. How do we prevent it from spreading from one bacteria to another? So it doesn't matter which bacteria is infecting you. You could even be having it in the gut, because our gut has a lot of bacteria as normal flora. They live there. But then they can gain resistance. If we misuse these antibiotics, they get to learn the antibiotics, and from the gut, these infections can move to the bloodstream and cause difficult to treat infection. So they have genetic material that can pass this information to another bacteria. Another way of developing resistance is that they produce, so I have to break it down, because we call them enzymes in science, but they are sort of juices that can digest the antibiotics. So they break them down and make them useless. So some bacteria would have that ability, and they are actually the biggest and the largest and the most problematic bacteria that we call them gram-negatives. These gram-negatives can secrete enzymes that would break down the antibiotics, and actually these are the antibiotics that we call second line and third line antibiotics. They are sort of the last line. So these are the bacteria that are actually giving us a lot of sleepless nights thinking about how we are going to stop antimicrobial resistance in this group of antibiotics. So, so those are some of the mechanisms that they use.
Okay, let's take a break and come back, because I want to just go a little bit further into so usually we think that an antibiotic would essentially go in and clear up the disease and take it away, but now we're hearing you say that what it does is that it breaks down essentially the bacteria. It breaks it down, so it stops it from now being able to spread, from being effective. All right, science is such an interesting thing, and then trying to see how that manifests in children. We'll come back and continue with that conversation. A researcher with Kemry Wellcome Trust is Dr. Caroline Tigoy, and she's here with us this morning, and we're looking at how the issue of children and treatment, and how some treatment now has become it's resistant. And that's the conversation that we're having this morning. It's 27 minutes to 9. We'll be back after this break.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
All right, at 17 degrees, it's mostly cloudy in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 27 and highs of 27 in a mostly sunny Nakuru. The sun is up at 17 in Nyeri with highs of 25, while at 17 it is sunny in Eldoret, going to highs of 26. Mombasa is sunny at 28, while Malindi at 30 is sunny. 21 and sunny into Kisumu, while at 22 it is sunny in Kakamega. Kampala at 20 is sunny, going to highs of 27, while at 26 mostly sunny in Dar es Salaam with highs of 33. 15 and sunny into Johannesburg, while at 28 Mogadishu is sunny, and 17 and sunny in Addis Ababa. 28 and mostly cloudy in Lagos, while at 24 it's cloudy in Kinshasa.
Sugar and spice and everything nice.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
It is busy in the city this morning, and we're looking at traffic as you're coming in from the Thika Superhighway. Always point to start with and see what's happening there. It was quite crazy earlier on, and we're looking at, less traffic as you come past the Allsops Junction. There is some inbound traffic on Outer Ring. Some of that is coming off of Kangundo Road, which has been busy all morning, and we also see some traffic on the Eastern Bypass still trying to find its way out towards that Cabanas interchange and then on to Mombasa Road. It is busy also on Langata Road as you get towards the Nyayo Stadium roundabouts, and then find your way onto Uhuru Highway and then into the city. All right, coming inbound from Westlands, there's some traffic here as well, and we are still in traffic hour. Let's see what happens as we go through it. We'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
25 minutes to 9 o'clock, and our conversation this morning is with Dr. Caroline Tigoi, a researcher with Kenya Wellcome Trust, and some of the conversations that we're having today just around, treatment and infections in children and how those illnesses have now become resistant to some of the treatment in the country.
Yeah, and as we talk about the AMR in the country, one of the most important aspects of dealing with it would be investment in R&D, research and development. And we know that it is resource heavy and intense in setting that up. But just how critical is it in investing in research and development to be able to deal with this?
So research and development is very important, and it's an investment I would like our country to do, because we need to be able to track the infections that are happening in our settings. So what I was calling surveillance before, we need to be able to do diagnostics, and we are able to do more research in terms of checking what is circulating in our settings, because we've realized some infections could be endemic to a specific region. So it is only found in Africa, and again within Africa we sometimes find variation even in East Africa, West Africa, depending again on what we are eating, because the gut really determines what infections are circulating in our settings. So research and development is very important in terms of having capacity to do surveillance, having trained personnel to be able to do this, and do some sort of analytics to look at projections on where we are going to. So when we track infections, we are able to tell what is the most predominant organisms that are causing these infections, and how are they behaving in terms of response. So we are able to test. If we have a specific bacteria, we are able to look at the antibiotics that they're responding to. So over time, we are seeing that infections are becoming more difficult to treat based on the resistant patterns we are seeing in the laboratory. So that research and development would be important in getting to know what is circulating. Another thing, it would be we are able to share this data even globally, so that as we are developing new therapeutics, new vaccines in the global space, people are able to know what is circulating either in Africa, because it's important for us to collaborate together and share data to be able to develop preventions for these bacterial infections. So research and development is very key, and training and capacity as well in our setting is very important, so that we have experts who are able to deal with these problems as they are emerging.
So how do children get infections that are resistant to treatment? How? Because I would imagine if a 5-year-old has been given an antibiotic, feels better after 3 days, and then, they don't finish, and that, from what you've told us, is a repetitive cycle. How does another child get that infection?
So it's through transmission.
Okay.
Yeah, because when we interact with one another, we get this resistant bacteria. through even shaking hands. Hand hygiene is very important. Touching surfaces that are contaminated with these bacteria would cause these infections. So you don't know when you are infecting yourself by touching surfaces. So being exposed to environments that have these infections, being in contact with the people who would be having this infection would predispose you to acquiring a resistant infection. And again, as we've said, children, their immunity between 0 days and 5 years, the immunity is still very low. So they are very susceptible to infections. So because they've not even done all the vaccines that we have available. Again, one big challenge that we have in our setting is vaccine coverage. We don't have, people are not going for these vaccinations, because if we vaccinate a population, then we prevent transmission.
Right.
So if the vaccine coverage is very low, because if we compare our country to high middle income countries, the vaccine coverage there is better than in our setting. So we need to create more awareness so that people can have more vaccination. Vaccine uptake is very important in preventing infections.
So sorry. No, please. Go ahead.
No, do I insist? Please.
Really? Okay, let me ask this question, and then now you will come. Right. So how would you know, as either a researcher or a medical doctor or a clinician, that this infection is resistant to treatment? How would you know?
You have to do a laboratory test.
And you would be testing for resistance?
Yes, we test for resistance. So we first of all, if it's a blood infection, if a clinician is suspecting that you have a blood infection, they would take a blood sample, and then we do what we call blood culture. Once we grow an organism, then we test whether it's resistant. We have like a spectrum of antibiotics that we test against each and every bacteria. So we have guidelines that we follow in the laboratory to get to know whether bacteria is resistant or not. Yes.
Then you know what to prescribe.
So actually at the moment is a big problem. If you go to our public hospitals, our clinicians would be struggling, because they are able to see that this child has what they call sepsis. Sepsis is an infection that is in the bloodstream.
Yes.
So this child has sepsis, but I don't know what to prescribe. Because, and again, especially in our newborn units, we've seen a lot of outbreaks and a lot of mortalities. So you find neonatologists or doctors who are treating neonates are really usually very frustrated, because one, they want to do a test in the public laboratory, but there are no reagents, there are no capacity to do the tests. So at the moment, it's a big challenge in our country. Diagnostics are missing, and the doctors are struggling to determine what antibiotics to give to these children. So you will find them just covering them with a broad spectrum antibiotic. And when you give a broad spectrum antibiotic, because you don't know what you're covering, then you're enhancing resistance.
Right. Let me ask the question. 0 to 5, children have a very weak immune system.
Yes.
Okay. What is it that builds the immune? What makes it stronger after 5 years of age?
Exposure to the bacteria. So the more you get the infections, the more you build your immunity, because your body reacts by producing protection, which is immunity.
And how else do you strengthen the immune system?
By getting a vaccine. So if we have the vaccines that are available, we need to take them, because that's when you're given. Because vaccines
what is a vaccine?
A vaccine.
Because this vaccine seems to be the silver bullet.
Yes.
If you take the vaccine, you're good.
You're good.
Yes. Are good. Yes. You're even bulletproof. What exactly is a vaccine?
So a vaccine is so depending on
what does it do?
Organism.
What is it that is in the vaccine, and what does it do to your body?
So a vaccine is a bacteria or a virus that has been made less virulent. Virulent is, it can't cause the actual infection,
less effective,
but it will trigger your blood system to generate what we call an immune response. So at the beginning you are at 0 level, but when you are given a vaccine, that is a bacteria that has been made less virulent, then your blood system will pick up protection to a certain level that would protect you from the same bacteria. So we make them, we make the bacteria less virulent, and then next time you have exposure to the actual bacteria, then you're able to fight it. Your body is able to fight it. Yeah.
So essentially, the more your body gets exposed to bacteria and viruses, the more it develops its capacity to fight these things.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to park that there.
Yeah.
Now, food also helps. The type of foods helps someone build the immune system.
In terms of like fruits that have vitamin C.
No, I'm just asking foods.
Yeah, food and proteins that are bodybuilding.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
exactly.
So we need to take proper nutrition is very critical in terms of our health.
So we're saying once someone has been vaccinated and they eat, whether it's a balanced diet or food that enables them to build the immune system, they should be less prone to falling sick.
Yes, they will be, definitely. So if you're healthy, that's your normal BMI, body mass index, and plus you have protection from a vaccine, then you're less prone to infections.
Yes.
And we will prevent you from going to hospital where it's very risky, being in hospital. So we've been doing research where we've seen that many children would acquire infections in hospital. So you come into hospital with less resistance, and then because of exposure to contaminated hospital environment, and again, because you are given an antibiotic, you get resistance. So you come in with about 30% of resistance, and then you gain up to 70% in hospital. Then this resistance would also take about up to 6 months to go down to the level that we want. That is the current baseline in the community.
You say we shouldn't go to hospital.
Yeah, Dr. Because I'm trying to imagine.
We shouldn't go.
The hospital is the place
we only
where
go
we
to
are going
hospital when it is necessary. And at the moment, we're actually doing even clinical trials for clinicians, and in future we hope it will inform policy, where when I go to see a clinician, before they admit me, they will have sort of a checklist. Is it really necessary to admit this patient? And if I admit, am I at any risk of dying? So if my risk of dying is very low, then I should send this patient home. You don't keep them in hospital.
Okay.
So simple interventions, even without any medication, just discharging somebody very quickly upon recovery.
Okay, just so
useful.
that we don't create doubt here.
Yes.
We are not saying, or are we saying, that hospitals, it is not the state of the hospital hygiene that we're talking about. We're talking about that there's so many people in hospital that you could actually get, children especially, could actually get another infection from. Or what are we saying here? Or is it a combined thing?
It's a combined thing.
Oh, really?
So one, overcrowding. Of course, in our setup, the infrastructure that we have creates an overcrowded environment. We don't have enough beds. Our babies are sharing baby coats. So therefore, if I have this bacteria, I would be able to give to my neighbor. Number two, our hospital, the infection control procedures that we have, how we reconstitute the disinfectants that we use in hospital could not even be the right, enough. It may not be enough to kill the bacteria that are on the surfaces. So we are saying in hospital, we have contaminated hospital equipment, we have contaminated hospital surfaces, contaminated even clinicians' hands.
Okay.
So if we are not doing enough sterilization of our hands or sanitization of our hands, then we are transmitting these infections from one patient to another. If our clinicians are not changing gloves, you use the same gloves on this patient, you move to the other one. You are also spreading the infection. So we need to do a lot. We need to do a lot of infection.
Do we see enough?
Procedures.
Do we see enough of infections being gotten at that level for it to be a worry point? Do we see? Can we trace it and say? So I guess the traceability factor comes in here. That can you say this child being sick and another 1,000 children being sick and trace it back to a hospital setting? You know, and say it's because of this. So we say, hang on, folks, something needs to be done.
Yes. So so I mentioned earlier, we are seeing a lot of outbreaks. So and how we do that is through surveillance or through children having the same symptoms. And that spike in same symptoms, same bacteria causing infection. So what we normally do is that we do environmental sampling. We collect samples from the environment, we culture them, and we tend to get the same bacteria that is circulating on the surface and the same one that is causing the invasive disease, like sepsis in children. And therefore, we are able to relate through genetic testing that these bacteria are similar. And it's acquired from a specific source. So usually it takes a lot of trouble to identify because you have to swap different services because if it is a neonatal unit, is it coming from the maternity? Is it coming from the neonatal ward? So we try and trace whether it's a specific equipment. And actually, so hospitals are actually, as I said earlier, a hotbed for transmission of these resistant organisms.
And it would be actually, because people don't go to hospital for recreation.
No.
They go there because they're unwell. And they're unwell because they have things which aren't quite working, and so they walk with those things into hospital. So you look at the numbers of people who
are doing the same thing.
Of things. God Almighty, I must avoid hospitals.
Me too. And this is it, when you talk about just how we take care of ourselves on a normal day. If you go back to when COVID was still high, you remember the sheer fact that people are wearing masks, sanitizing, that lowered infections in the country. You find issues to do with gut health and whatnot. The numbers went low, which goes to show that if we just become our own agents in taking care of ourselves, just hygiene, cleaning your hands, making sure what you're eating as well, avoiding overcrowded places, it is one way of dealing with these infections. But Dr. as we talk about that now, there is now the issue of solutions moving forward. We know that we need more training facilities, we need more laboratories to be put in place, we need information to get out there. But what would be your recommendation as a researcher on what must be done in hospitals and what we must do ourselves just so we can deal with the problem, which is AMR?
So number one would be guidelines that we need to have in place, which could be through policy where we reducing prescribing. So we do a lot of what we call antibiotic stewardship programs where we are educating clinicians on rational prescribing or less prescribing of antibiotics. So just prescribe whenever it's necessary. Number two would be creating awareness, public awareness in terms of the importance of not just using antibiotics over the counter. Again, in terms of regulations and policy, we need to develop policies that would reduce over-the-counter use. So we have more stricter policies that would preserve some antibiotics. Even WHO have come up with a way of stewardship by categorizing antibiotics on those you can access anytime, and those that you would watch as you use, and those that you need to reserve for extremely severe infections. So if we could follow such regulations, such recommendations, then we would reduce antimicrobial resistance. Again, if we do more research, as we said earlier, R&D is very important so that we are able to track, we do surveillance and be able to know what is happening and what is developing so that we can do more of prevention. Again, if we are able to partner together, at the moment, I think everybody is working in silos, and we need to break those silos and have the different ministries working together, because we know, again, antimicrobial resistance would spread through environment, which could be through water, it could be through agriculture because of overuse of antibiotics in animals. So as I said, because bacteria can spread this resistance across, it doesn't matter, the bacteria that is in an animal can still cause infection in human. So if we can work together as using what we call One Health approach, the people in the Ministry of Health work with the Ministry of Agriculture to come up with ways of reducing the use of antibiotics in agriculture, then we would reduce.
Sorry, Doc, let me just get an interjector on this on this food, especially now we're talking about agriculture. So it comes to mind meat that you consume, or eggs, because we know that the antibiotics are given to these animals as they develop. So we are saying essentially, if you consume this product, it's possible that you then can also get that resistance, essentially, Or you can get the bacteria. So what are we saying? You can get the bacteria for which it is already resistant to treatment. Please explain that.
So what happens when we eat food that is already contaminated with resistant genes, then you are able to get it, because in our gut we have bacteria that are just sitting there and they are normal flora. So the food that we eat would predispose us in terms of acquiring antimicrobial resistance. So use of antibiotics in agriculture as growth promoters, like the chicken, even when we are doing breeding, then we are enhancing transmission of AMR. So in our gut we can acquire the so we've seen, research has shown that food would be carrying resistant genes. Yes.
So how do you avoid that?
I mean,
how would you know? How would you know? I mean, buying a chunk of meat or chicken, whatever. How do I know this bird? Because you talk about surveillance, and I know that's one of the things that KEMRI does. But do we have surveillance in the nation to the point whereby you can trace what has been put into this bird, for example, or what has been put into this meat, goat, whatever, and you can trace back and say, yes, well, antibiotics at an acceptable level have been used here, or that bacteria has not been traced at the time of slaughter, whatever. Can we do that?
Yeah, it's a conversation that we need to have, and that's why I was recommending multi-sectoral collaboration, so that we have people in agriculture reduce the use of antibiotics in agriculture, so that we can prevent transmission of AMR.
Okay.
So I don't think the policy is there at the moment. People really want, when you want to do agriculture business, then you really want to prevent infections in your flock, and therefore you would use antibiotics. So it's a conversation we need to have. It's something we need to do in terms of developing policies to reduce the use of antibiotics in agriculture.
Essentially, what I'm hearing you, Doc, say is if today I want to go buy, say it's a chunk of meat from my butcher, it should be able to give me what ought to happen is it should be able to give information on where he got that, who was the farmer who produced that, for me to be able to trace that. But that is missing.
It's missing at the moment.
Missing.
I would tell you. I wouldn't tell you because.
Where does this happen? I mean, where do you go to a shop or where do you go to a supermarket and you say, okay, now just give me the history of.
In Kenya?
No, not in Kenya.
No.
In other countries it is.
No.
Yeah.
Is the history written? Is there documentation even as you're buying it so that you know they're telling you the history of this thing?
Yes. So they have the barcode, and when you click on you whatever the barcode, it'll take you back to point of slaughter, inspection, who inspected it, all of that. It actually is available.
So essentially in Kenya,
you can
that
trace
barcode,
your food.
You could be told this cow walked from Kajiado.
Yes. And I almost died halfway through.
And then boarded a lorry. Came Nairobi on this day. You know.
And that's where the traceability comes, the surveillance comes, isn't it?
Yes.
That you can actually trace back, and that's why people are this food knowledge thing. People can actually trace back to the medication that was given to this animal at what point, in what quantities, over how long. So you actually know, you really know what you're eating.
Okay.
And it would even be better to keep you don't take it immediately. So after the animal is vaccinated, is given antibiotics, then I think there should be a time limit before you sell it to the population. Yes. So that calls in a lot for public health to come in and sort of protect the population. And it's still a conversation that we need to have.
There's antibiotics in plants and animals.
Yes.
So essentially, when I eat certain vegetables and I eat certain meat, I'm eating antibiotics and I don't know.
Yes, it's possible.
Okay.
Yeah, and there could be traces also, because when we release effluent from hospitals or from agricultural or even through defecation, then we are releasing antimicrobial resistant genes back into circulation, like in water.
And
so we've seen traces of AMR genes in water as well.
I'd like you to wrap this up for us, and just, what would be your shot when you're telling parents who are taking their young children to hospital, telling others who are taking their, loved ones, food that we are eating. What would be the thing that you're asking us to remember or take into consideration today?
So prevention is very critical, because antibiotics are life-saving drugs that we need. And for us to protect our population, protect our neighbors, we need to use the antibiotics prudently. So what is important is that before you take any antibiotic, first of all, you have to seek medical advice. So you don't just go and treat yourself over the counter. We have to also take care of our nutrition. We eat well so that we are healthy, and we don't have to. We ensure that our immune system of our children is good. And again, taking vaccination seriously is good in terms of prevention of AMR. And so therefore we need to work together. We need to enhance our hygiene, both at home and in hospital. So working together with the clinicians to ensure that we are doing a lot in terms of infection control. We are doing a lot of awareness, training ourselves in terms of which antibiotics we need to reserve for more serious infections. So we don't need to have access to all these antibiotics. We don't need to panic that we could be dealing with a resistant infection even before we diagnose. We need to use what we are calling first line before we move to second line antibiotics. Yes.
Important information that we all need to carry, front and center, not even in the back of our minds.
Yes.
And we want to thank you and our friends at Kemri Wellcome Trust for having this conversation with us this morning. Dr. Caroline Tigo is a researcher at Kemri and has been our guest this hour. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for being here. Asante, good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Doctors are set to begin their strike today to mount pressure on the government to implement the collective bargaining agreement for the period 2017-2021 and to highlight the shortcomings in the Social Health Authority. KMPDU, that is the Secretary General, Davji Atela, says the government has failed doctors by not implementing the agreement reached. He adds that they'll also culminate in mass demonstrations today to petition the government to restore the dignity of the public sector workers and civil servants.
We have learned time and again that the government do not give in to issues when they're begged. We've learned that it only happens with demonstrations, with protests. And we've also discussed together with the UKCS as KMPDU that if these matters are not resolved, we're not just going to resolve to just demonstrations and protests. We're actually going to issue a strike notice on that 18th and proceed on strike, which will involve all the doctors and all the civil servants. That is what we are demanding, because there is no way we are going to continue begging where the government is very busy deducting money from us, extracting money from us, and they have no any intention to ensure that the Social Health Authority is working.
And a middle-aged man tragically lost his life in an accident in Kitui last night, according to a report from the Masimbinu Mulukalu local location chief. The Boda Boda operator died on the spot. This is after his motorbike collided with the rear of a tractor near Mosa Market. Police officers responded and cleared the scene along the Mutomo Kitui road. The body of the deceased has since been transferred to a nearby mortuary. Detectives are hunting for a gang of two that stabbed and killed a man aged 18 in a robbery incident in Nairobi's Kayole area. Police and witnesses said another man was stabbed and injured in the Sunday night drama in Muthaiga dump site area. The deceased was identified as Clinton Otieno, aged 18, and had sustained head and chest injuries. According to the police, the attackers used a knife and a needle-like object in their mission. King of Lesotho, Letsie III, will arrive in the country for an official visit. King Letsie III will be engaged in a series of events in the country. The King of Lesotho will tomorrow visit factories near Clayworks, Ruiru, and a school in Ruiru town for tree planting before his departure the following day. The World Health Organization chief has urged Washington to reconsider its sharp cuts to global health funding, warning that the sudden halt threatened millions of lives. Tedros Adhanom warned that disruptions to global HIV programs alone could lead to more than 10 million additional cases of HIV and 3 million HIV-related deaths. Tedros also warned that the cuts to direct funding for countries through the U.S. Agency for International Development and the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention would have a huge impact. That's the Newswire. I'm Lea Ubaga.
Spice up your life.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
All right, taking a look at what traffic looks like right now at a few minutes after 9 o'clock. It's still a little bit busy on the Thika Superhighway as you come then through towards Survey, but that shouldn't be too crazy. On Kiambu Road, just a little bit of that left. And as we're coming towards the end of traffic hour, we're seeing just a little bit of that left on Gong Road, but everywhere else, I think you'll be able to get through it. Not a problem. Jogo Road, however, still pretty busy as you go towards Landis. So let's keep an eye on things and see what happens in about half hour or so when traffic hour comes to an end. And we will talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 6 minutes after 9 o'clock into the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning. And we're going to be joined by our guest for this final hour at in a few minutes. And we'll tell you what we'll be talking about now. Sensodyne. Imagine biting into your favorite foods without the fear of pain. That stone cold ice cream or that super hot coffee, just the way you like it. You don't have to imagine it anymore. Why? Because Sensodyne is here to give you the ultimate relief from tooth sensitivity. And how do we know that? Because it is the #1 recommended brand by dentists. And with World Oral Health Day coming up, we're reminding you that a happy mouth is a happy mind. And to get this, Sensodyne is giving you 50% off on selected products to keep your teeth strong. So grab your pack from any Carrefour, Naivas, Chandarana or Quickmart, and that's between the 20th and the 23rd of March. Sensodyne for so you can grab that there, and Sensodyne is for tooth sensitivity relief and everyday oral health. That you want to get into, and you want to get into it now. All right, so getting to some conversations that we will have this morning. We're going to be joined in a few minutes by Ken Ondiek, who is the National Chair of the Progress Plus Alliance. And we're asking certain questions, and I guess he's saying certain things about what they will or will not do in the coming weeks. All right. And as we do that, just looking at some conversations that we had earlier and just shedding light on some of them, we're looking into the SHA issue and that story that we didn't get to share too much in terms of details. I just want to revisit that let's take a bit of history, that the private hospitals had come out and they had said, look, from the NHIF days, you do owe us quite a pretty chunk of change. And what we are saying that if you want us to continue offering these services, we don't have a problem with that. But what we're asking you to do is to pay us what you owe us from years yonder. Now, historically, now, it's been back and forth, and they got to the point whereby they said, we're not going to be able to offer services anymore because we've been doing this on a credit basis, but you owe us so much money that it's coming to the point where we're unable to operate. So anybody coming into these facilities is going to have to pay cash, or unfortunately, we're going to have to ask them to go to another facility. Well, the PS for in the Ministry of Health came out and said that the government will not succumb to intimidation by private hospitals. So this thing you're coming to tell us that you're not going to treat people, just get it out of your head. We're not going to succumb to that. And also you need to be remembering at the same time that we are the ones who issue your licenses. So you might want to rethink the stance that you have taken.
Did intimidation come into the conversation?
Sorry?
At what point did intimidation come into the conversation?
Or as per when did the hospital say that, when would it have been perceived that it was intimidation by the hospital saying pay us or we don't treat? Well, this is what it has been perceived by the Ministry of Health in the person of the PS. He's also gone on to say, while we're at it, we're not even sure that some of these claims that you guys have brought to us are genuine or that they are they're substantiated. So any claim above 10 million shillings, number one, you must substantiate it. If you can't, the likelihood of us paying you then is basically tossed out the window.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Apart from given the problems that NHIF has had, and given cases where we have actually witnessed that there were health facilities that were actually invoicing what's that thing called NHIF for services that were in doubt. Mm-hmm. Yes, it makes sense.
It does make sense.
Yes, but it doesn't have to be issued in that way.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Look, if you want to verify the cost, that is a separate conversation, and they've been doing it just like they're doing with pending bills. Because again, with pending bills, given the thieving nature of the citizens of this country, people were just sort of like making up things and claiming for things that never happened. So it makes perfect sense. Hospitals were claiming services were provided for that weren't provided. And when these things have been audited, we found some genuinely strange things. Okay? Somebody died, and somehow they're unwell and they've been treated.
Yeah.
Somebody has been treated for the same ailment God knows how many times. I mean, come on, for heaven's sake. Okay? So this is a time for having a sober conversation, not for grandstanding and going into a pissing contest. It will not help anybody.
It won't, especially since private hospitals are demanding 30 billion shillings in debt owed by the defunct National Insurance Health Insurance Fund. Some of these facilities have suspended SHA services. Yesterday, the PS warned that private hospitals found guilty of denying services to patients would be deregistered from SHA. So it's not even...
this is the point. I mean, what on earth is that?
I mean, it's not even an issue of maybe tomorrow. It's like we find out today that you're not offering services under SHA. We're going to delink you completely.
But they're under no obligation to offer services. I mean, what are you talking about?
Now, let's look at how.
This is private property. It's a private hospital.
And do we see that private hospitals are actually doing a favor by stepping in to fill the gap that public hospitals are not able to? Because if we say remove private hospitals from this particular equation, will the public hospitals that exist in the country be able to shoulder the burden of the sick in Kenya today on their own?
The answer is a resounding no.
There you go. Where did they come from? How do you have the proliferation of private hospitals in the country in the first place? Is because there was a gap. Nobody was sitting in the house and said, you know what, I'm kind of bored. How about I open a hospital? No. Or I need a business to operate. Let me open a hospital. There was a gap. There was not enough in terms of, filling that gap. And that's where private hospitals come from. That's how the private sector is built. It's the solutions that are being offered that unfortunately the public sector does not have enough in terms of bandwidth to carry. And to their credit, even if it was functioning fully, properly, you don't have enough to then be able to carry the entire population. It's not an insult, it's not undermining, it's not criticism, it's the truth. So private hospitals come in essentially to share the burden with you and say, let's go ahead and do this. So when you tell them that so what happens is that it's a credit system, and that's how it works. People come, you get treated, you bill your SHA card, even your private insurance. That's just how it works. So they offer you the service on credit and then essentially go back to the insurance firms and claim as hospitals. And so it's the same procedure that you would go back to government as an institution or as a facility and then claim, I treated Ndu and this was her bill, 300,000. I treated CT, this was his bill, 25,000. I treated Dennis like that. So essentially the government is supposed to pay them back. So they've been offering these services on credit to the tune so far, said, of 30 billion shillings under NHIF. They continue to offer these services under SHA because it still remains a credit system. Now, to its credit, government has, to an extent, been paying current bills. Do you understand? That in this time, they've been paying current bills. They offset some of this money, but they're saying that the majority of the money has been unpaid. And what private hospitals have been foreseeing is a situation whereby they're going to get into another 30 billion shilling funk. So they're saying, in order to avoid it, how about you do this? How about we stop offering the service so we don't go into further debt? And how about you figure out how you can pay us this 30 billion? Even if you're going to come to us and say we'll be paying $1 billion every week, whatever the case may be, how about you commit to that? Government said, not happening. And then they've also gone ahead to say, we don't even know if that 30 billion is substantiated.
Now they've muddied the waters.
And then further to that, we are demanding that people come to hospital you must treat them.
Yeah.
These other things that people are saying about how we've not paid you and how we
treat people.
You treat people. Then on top of that, if you don't treat them and we find out that you're not treating, we'll remove you from this thing completely. You will not even be able to help us. You will not be able to help us anymore. Then to add salt, add insult to this injury, you now on top of that say, then we find out even that you've been irritating us even more. We will not even renew your licenses when they come up for renewal.
And icing on the cake, why are these hospitals only now demanding payments for claims dating back to 2016?
No, it's not only now.
Why didn't they pursue these claims earlier?
They did. They've been pursuing the claims.
Yes.
They have been pursuing the claims. You've just not paid them. It just now means that what is biting?
The hospitals were being gracious. Okay? They were rogue hospitals, rogue facilities that were doing God knows what it is they were doing, and they were milking the system. Okay? But there were very many hospitals that were providing services for which they haven't been paid. It's a legitimate claim they're making. Why doesn't the government come up and say, look, we've audited, and what we know we owe you is this? Okay? Look at our audit and tell us what whether you agree with it or not. It is not complicated. It can't be that all hospitals, all private facilities, all private health facilities in this country have a problem. No. This is a credit facility that was offered to the government. And they're saying, pay up.
Yeah.
That's all.
And they're even saying, break it down. Sawa, we know that maybe at once you don't have 30 billion.
Give us a plan.
Perfecto.
Remember, they gave a notice and said, look, please, by this time, sort this thing out. And what they were asking was for conversation and assurance. They said, okay, beyond this point, those who are in hospital, we will treat. But anybody else coming with a new ailment, we will not treat. They said so in advance.
They did.
Do you know what would have averted this? A conversation and a plan.
To even say, all right, folks, for now, for sure, we don't have 30 billion, but we do acknowledge the fact that this money is owed. Whether it is the full 30 billion or whether it's 26 billion, whatever, there's a 4 billion knocked off because, we can't substantiate, whatever the case may be. So, folks, we don't have that money right now, but what we know is that it'll come in the future. So what we can do is that we can split this. We can do it into tiers. Certain hospitals at this level, whatever will get paid as we try to make our way up the chain.
This is our plan.
This is the plan.
And to show goodwill, this is what we're paying now. Okay? Let's move forward. The patients would still have been going to hospital. The issue of them not being admitted would not have arisen. But instead now we're grandstanding.
What's the problem? What's the issue?
This is the same issue we had when it came to the industrial actions we've seen with the health fraternity. You have a plan, you have a promise, you even have a CBA. Every time we've had people who head these institutions, they come and tell you, even that conversation is difficult.
Yeah.
We don't have the money now. We don't have it. Okay? But what we will have tomorrow, the day after, is this. Can we start with this?
With this.
Please.
I don't see a situation where...
Can we start with this?
Even if they make noise for you from here till tomorrow, they will be accepting because they've seen that you've made a step.
They're Kenyans, they know exactly what to want.
But City, even as we talk about these pending bills, NHIF pending bills and whatnot, just how much before NHIF was actually closed down, how much was it worth? I'm just saying here around 82 billion. And
yes.
We're talking about funds that are owed to this to these hospitals. Remember, City, that these are contributions from Kenyans which ought to have gone into paying their bills. It is not any other person's fund. So failure to meet these obligations is simply because someone has decided not to. Because where did the 82 billion shillings from NHIF
this deciding
go?
Is it their purview? Is it their mandate? Is it something that is enshrined in their employment that they have a right to simply tell the people who are asking for their money that is up somewhere else?
She can do it, City. That's exactly what they're saying.
No. Good governance demands that we have a lot more from the public service than what is being displayed.
Yeah,
absolutely, indeed. And that forms the basis of another conversation that we'll be having this morning, and it's more or less around the issues of governance and certain things that have been going on in the country. Kenon Diek is our guest this hour, and we've been looking at a number of conversations, and he is the national chair of the Progress Plus Alliance. And the question, the statement is already at why legislators are walking away from Kenya Kwanza protests. And that's what we'll be talking. Good morning.
Morning.
Karibu sana.
Yes, long time.
Long time. Did you lose the address?
I decided to abandon. Losing the address of this place?
Yes.
No. It's about our mismanagement of public things, making public transport difficult, messing the roads, causing jams left, right, and center.
The king is around.
Yeah, the king is messing people walking around the town with some paid crowds wasting time and interfering with the transport system. So there was jam. I'm sorry, a little late.
Yeah,
thank you.
Karibu sana. It's good to have you here.
Thank you.
And let's welcome you to today's conversation. City has a proverb, as you know, and we would like to know your interpretation of the same.
I will try my best.
Okay.
Sudan, the Republic of Sudan is where our proverbs are from this week. The name Sudan originates from the Arabic word Bilal al-Sudan, meaning land of blacks. Okay? Right. If your relatives are dogs, this is the proverb. Okay? I'm not making a statement. I am actually, yes. If your relatives are dogs, make a tail for yourself. That is the proverb.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, fine. If your relatives are dogs,
you make a tail for yourself. Yes.
You make a tail for yourself. It means, what dogs, sometimes they don't... I look at dogs in two things. One, they are disciplined. When dogs are mating, sometimes they are very disciplined. But sometimes they also don't care about who they attack, and they can decide to attack anybody. So it means you have to watch your own back. I don't know whether it would resonate with the current status or the current situation in our country. We have friends and relatives. When I talk about relatives, I talk about fellow Kenyans. There are some who behave like animals. They don't look at the fact that everybody needs to survive. Yeah, because you see, the instinct of a dog, while they can protect their young ones, they can also be very disciplined when they are in their biological mating process. But you see, it's always a struggle. For you to find yourself a space to end up being there, to be respected as they always respect the one who has gotten there, there's too much struggle, and they will always fight over anything. So I am not the best with proverbs, but I have tried my best.
One would say you have tried.
And then you say you're not good at proverb interpretation.
You've interpreted, and you have even gone ahead to apply it to the life that that you live. So I don't know if you're not good at a proverb. I don't know the person who's bad at it, how they sound.
Thank you.
Karibu sana. certain things have happened since the last time you came and had a conversation with us, and that's even found in the title of our conversation this hour, where you're asking, or rather we're saying that why legislators are walking away from the Kenya Kwanza promises.
Yeah, the last time I was here, basically, I was talking for the government, and that time, still challenged me, why am I on a different tone today? Because the last time we were within it, trying to make it work. And as I said, I was that time coordinator of Nyanza, of UDA.
Yes.
The purpose why we were doing that was basically to open the democratic space, and he tried to challenge me here that will we succeed in opening up that democratic space. But because we have realized that we have someone who doesn't want to open up the space, he has decided to collude with the president. Basically, the arrangement between Raila Odinga and the president is not to help the president run the country. It's to position himself to control Nyanza. So that is why I've said where he is, it's a total mess. I have chosen to move along with the party. Why am I talking about that? You have asked me, why are Kenya Kwanza members of parliament running away from Ruto's or the Kenya Kwanza promises? In fact, don't call it Kenya Kwanza promises. There's nothing like Kenya Kwanza.
What do you mean?
The government is Ruto, and Ruto is the government. So there are Ruto promises. We don't talk about, no any other person gives promises. Because if we talk about MPs running away from promises, from whose promises? Because they are the MPs. How can they be running away from their government promises? They are running away from William Ruto's promises, which are basically promises made not to be fulfilled, promises made with no strategies of being fulfilled, promises made with no attempts of being fulfilled. And any attempt made falls ab initio because there's theft that starts with it.
Bonondiek, I have to stop you.
Hey.
Bonondiek,
man, you've entered this conversation all cylinders firing.
Blowing from the gasket.
All right, do.
So I have to ask you, you speak with such vehemence, but not too long ago, and really, just, under 2 years ago, you sat in that very same seat.
And not once.
And not once. And what you said was the total opposite of what you're saying today. In fact, many would have said that there's the priest and then there's the choir. You are the choir.
You will help me launch a book which I'm going to publish. I think it's supposed to be out very soon. It's called the Puppets Revolt. I'm calling it the Puppets Revolt. That is a journey from spinning to revolution. We, as the persons who speak for the government, in fact, whoever will come to speak for this government here, ask him this question: are you spinning or giving opinions?
So were you spinning 2
I've realized that after my short stint of that spinning period, which didn't last a year and a half, I was speaking, we were being made to speak things which are not true. And I want to say, even Mwaura, when he stands to address the nation, he's not speaking the truth. Because you see, when I'm on station like this, my phone is now on silent. When I'm done, I go read what people have sent to me. I have Kenyans who send to me things. Like I was one day on K24 defending Shah. In fact, the worst was on Ramogi TV, defending Shah.
In your language?
In my language. And once I was done, I got out of studio, 13 people called me. I got 13 missed calls because I like returning missed calls. One of them abused me and told me, Bwana, if you have eaten money there, just return that money. It's not sweet.
Had you?
I didn't.
You didn't?
In fact, this is a government which steals even from those who defend it.
I have to hold you again.
In fact, even you who defends it on the platform, it steals from you.
Sorry.
Let's start by saying that everything you're saying is your opinion.
Basically, not the channel's opinion.
No, not basically. It is fundamentally your opinion. Yes, because it is not our opinion.
It cannot be yours.
No. So long as you're in this studio, my friend, we'll be enjoined with you. Yes, we get sued for having guests who say inflammatory things here. So,
okay, fine.
We're not saying you should stop.
Okay.
No. Please, go ahead. We're just saying.
I just need to ask the question. That so at the time when you believed in the promises, everything that was said, you carried on and said that, yes, this is the way that Kenya is going. We endorse the message coming from the president. Nobody could have convinced you otherwise at the time. So the question is, at the time, Bonondiek, did you know that you were spinning? And if so, were you fooling Kenyans?
And so I start from this point.
Did you know you were spinning? Were you?
You see,
were you fooling Kenyans?
Have you known why people have divorces? Cases of divorce are all over the country and all over the world. People get divorced because you get into a process and you get into a relationship based on what you are told maybe from the first point. But when you realize you get this person is so adulterous, this person is not trustworthy, you end up getting divorced.
But there are also red flags that have been blowing in your face that you choose to ignore.
And it didn't take me a year and a half to see those red flags. So that's what I'm saying. One, we have a system which is experimental. We have a system which is testing everything, and the problem is that it is tested with Kenyan lives. When we had NIF, instead of strengthening NIF, they chose to bring SHA.
NHIF. Okay.
Yeah, when I went to the station, I was given a good policy document. I come to present, and actually I presented it well, CT, didn't I?
Oh, you did.
I really presented it well. But now when I went back, people tell me, Bana, what you have presented is not working. I had to evaluate. I had to think. And that's why I've come here to say courageously that this that we have been defending. And even those who will come still to defend it here, I've even seen some government officials come to sit here, some who I also respect a lot. And they lie to you.
What happened that made you change your mind?
I
Something
realize
must have
that they're
happened.
lying. You see, when you realize that somebody is lying, then you ask them. And when you come here, you talk that policy, you get the feedback from the people. And when you tell them the feedback, you don't get opportunity to be heard. But it's a government that doesn't listen to anything. It's a government that is not advised. It's a government that is messed. Simple like that.
Ken, as someone who was speaking the government's language at the time, and your realization that things are not going as expected, one would assume that you had this conversation with the powers that be. And at that point of sitting down with them to raise your concerns about these promises that you had, big promises, what was the response and who exactly did you talk to?
If you have a president who advises his advisors, now who can you go to advise? You see, you will advise his advisor, then advisor will tell you I'll not be advising. So if we are to move forward, Ndo and Siti and Mike.
Yeah.
He's called Dennis.
Dennis. I want to say that, one, we must know that as a country, we gave ourselves a constitution, and it gave us freedom of speech. It gave us freedom of association. I was speaking for them freely, whether it was making them happy. Now that I have also ability to speak freely, whether it's going to make them sad, let them swallow it. Because that time some people are also sad because of what. But I've realized those who are sad are more than those who are happy. So I chose to join the many. Because you see, governance is about principles and it's about structures. If you put up structures which are not propelling the system to the next direction, you saw the president moving around Nairobi. Who was even willing to follow him? In fact, boat crowd which ended up being thieves, interfering with everything. For the first time, we have seen president's convoy killing two people, a police officer who is serving them and a foreign citizen. Which places? Even the officers who are planning the system are tired. Everybody is tired. They just can't leave because some people fear losing a job. I didn't have a job there, Andu. I was not employed by the government. I didn't have anything to lose. And if I realize that I'm speaking things which are not even resonating with my villagers, so what do I do? How do you keep saying things which are, first of all, they are not helping you? They are ending up, we are betrayed. As a country, we are betrayed.
A lot of times when we hear positions like this coming to the public, it's usually that something has happened in the back room or on the back end.
Let me tell you what has happened.
That is unpalatable for you.
Let me tell you.
So the question is, what happened, Ken?
What happened are three things.
Who let you down for you to make this public position?
Just like William Ruto and his government let down the hustlers. We tried to explain to hustlers that we have policy like this which is going to take you here. We were told hustler fund, only to realize that hustler fund is too small to run any business. We were told we are modifying education system. We came and explained it. We were told in fact, in this country, ministers don't even run their departments now.
Who runs the departments?
Which minister will say anything? Because these things are all run from State House. Which minister will come and say, I'm going to do this? He cannot do or she cannot do anything.
Why?
The minister can't do anything. Because we are in a country which is hijacked. It's currently hijacked and the worst now, the biggest hijacker has arrived. Raila Odinga has now further hijacked it together with now, it can't just work. Now, what I was simply saying, one, as a country, we must move on. And the state we have is not going to provide services because it just decided to focus on nothing. When you have a country which is in crisis, a country where for 3 months now we are since the beginning of this year, there's no even foreign president who has visited the president in the State House. The president has nothing to do in the State House. He's busy walking out on the streets.
The Queen and King of the Netherlands are here.
That's what
the King and Queen of the Netherlands. That's why you were late. They are here.
Let me tell you, a king we are talking about presidents. A king is a head of which state? In that place where you have a king, there will be a president who is a head of state, or maybe prime minister.
Prime minister.
Yeah. So the queen does not run the executive state.
When you have a prime minister, there is a head of state.
Yeah.
A prime minister is head of government.
So is our president head of state or head of government?
You are the political animal. Tell us.
So what I'm simply saying, we are isolated internationally. We have a president who has nothing to do with the state, or is busy on top of vehicles, simply because the policies don't work. He ends up now looking at hungry Kenyans and telling them he wants to give them chapatis. Basically, if you have reached a level where you are confirming to the world that the people you rule can't even afford chapati, what does that mean? And you want me still to come on studio to say how chapati will help people in Kibera?
No, I want you to be able to convince Kenyans that this is the same Ken Ondiek who 2 years ago was saying something different. You must understand the position where Kenyans will sit today, who look at a potential.
Because we heard you.
Yeah, because
and some
nobody would have been able
in
to
fact, they didn't believe.
Allow me to finish. Nobody would have been able to separate the man who sits here today and the man who sat here 2 years ago. And this is not just about you. There have been many examples of people who've changed their position. And so what do you expect Kenyans to do when Kenyans are desperately looking for a proper leadership? Kenyans are desperately looking for livelihoods to be secured. And then that's why I asked, what happened in the back end? Because usually something must have happened for a change of position like this to
I was
occur.
explaining 3 things which happened. I know most Kenyans will want to quickly run to the fact that maybe if I was defending president,
Or maybe they didn't give you a position.
No. I know. That is what many Kenyans want to run to. Which each and everyone has freedom of thinking. They can think as they wish. But what I want to say is the truth. I wish the truth can get to Kenyans. And they know why I am saying I can't speak anymore in support of this system. One, this is a system, if you allow me to say the truth, the problem is that I am so censored. I hope I'll not be censored so much so that I give the truth, because if I package them
speak your mind.
Thank you. One, I went to talk for the government. I was given policy document. I served as a post office. You know, the chief executive officer of Standard Group may want to fire you, but he doesn't want to send you that letter directly. What do? They write the letter which they know is so bad for you, because then they package it into an envelope, and then they send me as a post office to bring you. I don't know the content. The thing is, when you come to speak for the government, there's a rule of spinning for the government. That's why the government spokesperson speaks, even when he knows that he's speaking what is incorrect. Simply because I am told a policy document. CT has told me today we are going to discuss SHA, why is it not working? Then I asked the minister in charge, tell me why SHA is not working. The minister will tell me, fine, we are putting up these things. I come and say what the minister has told me. But now when I leave the studio, people tell me that thing is not working.
So
I fall sick myself, I realize it's not working. So why then do I support it? And then this is a government that has insisted on it, which is not working. If there was corruption in NIF, why didn't they correct the corruption? So this is what I'm saying. Number 2, which happened, there is always time when you have supported something too much. That's why I talked about marriage. You can be married to your wife or your husband who loves you so much, you support each other, but you realize that he is not the cause for which you are married. Then you choose to divorce. It means that only a fool can't change his mind, especially when you find that things are just not working. I can tell you things are not working. I have checked. I have seen. In fact, one day I was defending a university model. And then a student, I was a teacher before. As a student, I taught tells me, my brother, currently I'm a lecturer, and this thing is not working, sir. This thing is bad. So who do I believe? Do I believe a minister who I don't know who has just told me about it, or I believe someone I really have trusted over time? So President William Ruto, together with his government, is completely not trustworthy of any person in this country.
Let's take a break on that point.
That is very simple.
Let's take a break. Ken Ondiek is here with us this morning, and he's saying he's not shifting goalposts. What he's saying is that there's been a change of mind based on what he's been able to see. And then, of course, the question comes in, so then what would you have Kenyans do as a result of that? So we're going to take a break and come back and look into that a little bit more, and why folks are walking away from those promises that have been made, which, by his own admission, he lauded them, spun them. We'll come back and talk about that. It's 22 minutes to 10.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start. Traffic updates brought to you by M-Pesa.
All right, we're coming out of traffic hour. Not too much left on the streets as we traverse the city. Just a little bit of that on Landis as you approach Kamkunji. But Langata Road looks good as it does on Gong Road and coming out of Westlands towards the CBD. And if you're coming off Mombasa Road, you'll see just a little bit of that traffic as you approach the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. And then heading out towards Uhuru Highway, which, by the way, as you then get into the CBD is fine. A little bit of traffic right around museums as you come down into the city. But I think we've stepped out of traffic hour magnificently, not doing too badly, getting into Tuesday, Wednesday proper. We'll keep talking SpiceFM KE on X through the morning.
Traffic updates brought to you by M-Pesa. Calling all rugby enthusiasts. We're on the hunt for girls and young women who are passionate about rugby and ready to bring the best cheer to the global cheer squad for Kenya Sevens. Show your love for the sport by sharing your most spirited cheer videos on social media, tagging SpiceFM and using Hisa behind every moment.
Mature, intelligent talk. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
20 minutes to 10 o'clock, and Ken Ondiek, who is the national chair of the Progress Rotten in the state of Denmark, essentially. So the question is, Ken, what would you have Kenyans do? I think there have been too many a leader who've come out after a while and said, things are stinking, but you were there in the cesspool of it and made Kenyans believe that everything was wonderful. Yeah. Whether we want to talk about former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who's come out and now is pointing fingers and saying, things have gone bad. We have too many examples of it. So what do Kenyans do with this newfound realization that things are not as they were?
And let me just top up on what Andrew is asking. Is this a political correct move for you?
Well, thank you. One, we need to agree that if I check my reading, there are certain things which you can admit from the onset, and some which you admit in the course, and some which you actually admit at the end. When Chinua Achebe was writing his book, One of the People, he said, Chief, the Honorable M.A. Nanga, was the most approachable politician in the country. And if you would ask in his hometown, Anata, they would tell you he was a man of the people.
Of the people.
I have to admit this from the onset, or else the story I would say would make no sense. Those are Chinua Achebe's words, in a man of the people. The reason, William Ruto is someone who, from the onset, everybody could believe that he could change things. The narrative, bottoms-up economic transformation agenda, the hustler movement, the intentions were there. And with the movement, the frustration he went through under the handshake government with Uhuru Kenyatta, he could actually tell you that he could do it. But the truth that Kenyans didn't remember, that before that, there were reasons to doubt him. Now I'm coming to say that there are reasons for me to be doubted for having served in defense of the president and the government. But I did not serve in defense to benefit from the government. Reason being...
Why did you serve?
I said I served in defense of the government because I believed on the policies and also I believed on a few individuals who are there. But you see, as usual, sometimes you operate with people is when you know them. Even Jesus had to be crucified by his own people because of that. But you see, Paul had to transform the gospel and to send the gospel, having been in that process.
Okay.
So now this is what I'm saying. Realization, basically, Kenyans don't need to trust. In fact, on this bench, if someone comes to tell you what this government is doing, just tell us the truth. Stop the spin. Just tell them that. Just tell them that. Okay, now, tell us what the government wants you to say. Then now tell us the truth. Have two segments in the discussion, because I've realized that there's a lot which government wants them to say, and there's a lot which they also wish to say, but because of collective responsibility and the principle of governance, you can't say them. Now, the move is the best for me, and the best for many Kenyans. And I'm happy. Many Kenyans are realizing that this thing is not possible. And that's why they're running away from the promises. Even the members of parliament, they're running from promises which were made to them. One, we have a parliament which cannot operate. In fact, the current parliament has failed Kenyans. I said it somewhere, that members of parliament are subject of these lords. Like members of parliament of Azimio are subject to who Raila wants. So it means what you see in parliament, you see the mind of Raila. I don't see their minds. Just like when they went to vote. How come all members of parliament of Azimio could vote for Gachagua out, meaning they didn't think anything? So what they think is what they are told. So even members of parliament, when they come here, you tell them, can you tell us what your party wants you to say? And then now, when you are done with that, can you tell us yours? Because the truth is that the spinning all over sides is not correct. Now, what Kenya needs to do, one, look at the current labor situation in the country.
Yeah.
Kenyans are jobless. Kenyans are jobless. And that's why, as Progress Plus Alliance, we have called out Kenyans so that we have consultation with jobless Kenyans. Because this part, when they come on census, they ask you, unemployed or self-employed? You know, then they group you as self-employed as employed. When you are a struggling person driving Bolt, then you have employed yourself. Basically, you are jobless, but the government is taxing you. But they come on census, they ask you whether you are self-employed. So they don't put a position for jobless. So there are so many Kenyans who are jobless. We cannot be, as jobless Kenyans, discussing SHA. I'm a jobless Kenyan. I cannot be talking about SHA because Kenyans don't have money to pay for that SHA. We cannot talk about being levied on housing because we don't have money to pay for those things. So what we want to do as a country now, Kenyans who are jobless need to sit down and now discuss among themselves. Are we going to invest? Are we going to take the jobs by force? Or are we going to force them to create jobs for us? Because this is a country which has not built any industry for the past few years.
Are you drumming up support for your own political party?
No, I am drumming support for Kenyans who are jobless, Kenyans who are suffering, Kenyans who are stealing in the presidential convoy, and they are being thieves. They are being called thieves, yet actually they didn't intend to steal.
Do you know that what you're doing is exactly what the president did?
Yeah, but he
found a situation which he understood very well. He's an extremely eloquent fellow. He explained to people they're suffering, and he told them, by the way, there is a way out.
I have a solution.
I, whom you hear, can provide the way out. Is this not what any politician who's worth their weight in salt will tell you?
When he explained so, you trusted him.
When people listen to politicians, they listen because they want someone to give them hope. That's why people, all these large numbers of people go to rallies and so forth. Yeah. They want someone who can inject some hope, and the hope that will sort of like expel the miseries that they feel in their lives. People who are busy doing what they're doing don't go around attending rallies.
You see, we all believed bottoms-up transformative agenda. It was making sense.
That narrative made a lot of sense.
Yes.
It still makes sense. The narrative makes sense.
After studying it and realizing the owners of the narrative, speaking it and doing it, I have realized that it doesn't make sense.
Why?
It doesn't make sense because it doesn't outline the exact way by which that bottom thing will be done to ensure that that person at the bottom is elevated from that bottom bit. They gave it a good package, but they didn't unpack it so that it could be visible. For me, I thought transformative agenda from the bottoms up was simply going to enable that person at the low level. And that's what I said. We stayed waiting, talking on their behalf. I thought they were going to make life of that person simple. You are talking about so many people at the low cadre level, and they don't have jobs. I thought they were going to think, because the only thing Kenyans need is an opportunity to earn something. That's all. That's what, if you talk about Mama Mboga, you talk about them earning something. When you talk about hustlers, you talk about them earning something. I thought they were going to create an environment enabling these people to earn something, not to injure them by too much taxation, not to injure them by not creating any factories, which are there are collapsing. The ones which are there are collapsing and they are not doing anything. I thought they were going to transform it through industries. That's all we need. Kenyans need industries to work. Like now the Standard Media. The other day I saw, they have stopped even the advertisement of this company. This is a big company which if you deny them money, all these people on the bench, where are they going to go? And they are destroying it simply because they have a mission to interfere with some people's business. Was that the bottoms-up transformative agenda? The thing is, allow me just say this. Kenyans want to hear this. That one, the only thing that Kenyans need today is opportunity to earn something. Opportunity to earn something. And the opportunity to earn something the government can only do by bringing industries. Full stop.
So you're saying...
I thought they were going to suspend unnecessary development and focus on industries. If that would work, that's all. In fact, I can give you my 7 writings. As I was talking for the government, I was writing a policy document, 7 policy documents. I have even a cabinet paper I wrote myself, which I thought could be presented to transform the Nairobi River. I can give you my policy as on dear Kennedy. We could be presented to cabinet for transforming this. When they read it, they decided to turn it into some conmanship business down here, which is now not what I thought. So there are people who get good ideas. I gave my personal opinion of a good idea which could transform Nairobi River. And what they did, they hijacked it, took it to the Ministry of Housing, and now you see what is happening there.
So Ondiek, are you angry because it is a deal gone
No,
sour?
I gave a policy. It was not supposed to be a deal. I gave my mind. I didn't even consult for the government. By the way, for me, I have not earned anything from this government, whether through back channel or through front channel. I have not.
You have volunteered?
I volunteered because of one thing. One thing, that this idea was good. I didn't vote for President William Ruto, and I had said it here. But I thought that when he came in, there was an idea to build something. So I decided to join, because he joined my brother, who was very sharp, Dr. Raymond Omola. I saw him here one day. He's a very sharp man. If he talks, he's very sharp. But I'm telling you, the best he can do, because he's given it's a department of modifying the chiefs and assistant chiefs and the DOs. He's really doing it well. So he's not able to do that. So I trusted that. So this is now the problem. We have good policies, but they are not implemented.
So the implementing matrix for all of this seems to be the problem here. However, we hear your voice the loudest. I think now after we've seen this pact or marriage between Raila Odinga and President William Ruto, that seems to have irked you a little bit. You said that now that they've joined, that is now the downfall of all of this. Why?
I will answer it on my personal perspective, and I'll be allowed to be personal.
Please.
And then I'll answer it on public perspective, and I'll be allowed to be public.
Okay.
One, on personal basis, I did not like the way Raila has been operating our Nyanza region. And I will not relent on that. I said, this Raila person cannot help Luo community. Because I'm a Luo, first of all, before I become a Kenyan. Yeah. Because, for example, if you look at how he did whip even his MPs to remove Gachagua. And then they stand, after removing Gachagua, because Gachagua was tribalistic in his statements, they also stand on that tribalistic basis and divide everything today. What they are saying, is it different from what Gachagua was saying? So they should all impeach themselves. That way he mismanaged our Luo politics and leadership.
How exactly did he mismanage Luo?
By one, I'm not opposed to Raila today so much. What I'm simply saying...
Just a little bit.
Yes, just a little bit.
Yes.
We have a dispensation where somebody selects who becomes your member of parliament. He selects for you. In the name of bringing to be elected
by the process of nomination.
Nomination.
Yes.
He selects, and that is why I told you, the other time I told you, I started PDP together with Governor Bado, so that we bring alternatives, so that when he selects somebody with his ODM, we could have an alternative. In 2022, they ensured that in the United States registration until we remained partyless. It remained ODM. He has maintain tyranny, monopoly, and lack of democracy within that region with a party called OD with democracy on it, which is a fallacy. Number two.
Political parties are not democratic institutions, sir. But continue.
Allow me to dispense my points, but I forget. Yes. Because I really wanted to answer it on personal and private. Go ahead. So, when I see this person, he had already been rejected by Kenyans, just like I also rejected him. Then now, this one who has been rejected uses the opportunity that Gen Zs really wanted to use to transform this country. Then he jumps into it, then hijacks the whole thing. Now you can see, he calls more shots, he calls more shots than the president. He has now taken over parliament. Now, what next is he intending to take over? Now, finally on public, this is a government that only needed to be guided into transformation to help Kenyans. It was not government to be supported, to be cajoled in continuing to do what they are doing. If SHA is not working, you don't have to go and sign some pact to get some positions in parliament to let SHA work. Simply calling on the minister and the permanent secretary in that ministry, if this thing is not working, how do you tell us that the system of SHA cannot work when M-Pesa works 24/7 in this country and transacts bigger volumes of money than that which SHA needs to transact? Then you tell us that we as a country need to sign a pact between Ruto and Raila to let SHA work.
Well, Ndiek, let me ask the question. You have mentioned Gen Z protests, Raila jumps and hijacks, according to you. Tell me, is Raila Odinga a politician?
I don't know.
He is.
Who is a politician?
Yes. He is. You are a politician. Raila Odinga is a politician. What exactly has he done wrong in hijacking that process?
What I'm saying is this. If it's really progressivists, as he claims, then the truth was simple. He would have just asked the Gen Zs, because I didn't see him consult the Gen Zs.
No, that's what he would have
sat with them.
Yes.
He would have sat with them and asked them, what is it? The other day when he wanted to join Ruto, we saw him pretending that he went around the country to collect views. He didn't go around the country. He went to Luo community, and then he went to Coast, where he believes that he has some support. Did you see him in any other place? Simply what I'm saying, and I will be very candid about it. And there's something which when you say, you go to your house comfortable. When I was talking for the government, I could go to my house and my wife. The other day I would say something, and then my wife asked me, babe, are you sure you are okay? Did you meet anybody before you went to the studio? Then I asked, to meet what? I told, I just came from the house and went to the studio. Then she told me, what you have said, I don't think, even my colleagues at work were asking me, is this your husband talking? Because I was defending taxation. I was defending that tax, by the way, tax bill.
You were.
I defended it strongly up to the day when it was withdrawn. In fact, I was on TV in the morning defending it, and the government withdraws it in the evening. Just like John Badi was in the morning defending Adani deal, and the government withdraws from it. That day.
Was it Mbadi or was it?
One day. It was very funny. I was watching one day defending the Adani deal for the president to pull it out the other an hour. In fact, the government was like addressing the press when he was on television, addressing something about your meeting. So that is the kind of thing. My wife told me, oh, babe, I don't think you are right. So I can tell you, I was sad even in my house. Now I can be very comfortable. If they want to arrest me, they will.
But you're still angry.
No. But when
you're still
from
angry.
Studio, when I come from here, I'll be happy.
Yes, of course you're venting, and we understand. You are right. One must have the latitude to change one's mind, and actually, it's a sign of strength, not weakness, to change your mind. It's just that when somebody changes their mind very, very often, this is the first time you're changing your mind, so you are still okay.
You're okay.
If you change it a second time, we'll say, this guy now.
What does it portend? I mean, I think our time is running down, Bonondek. So it seems as though, from what you said, there are many people who have the same feeling that you do, and are bringing it out, whether it's in private or whether it's in public. What does it mean moving forward if this vote of no confidence is now being put out in the public?
The truth is that the state, as it's being run today, has lost direction. And when you talk about Progress Plus Alliance, I think I did not come to popularize our party, but when you come to it, you will find my party leader is your friend, and the one you know so much is called Arnold Maliba. If Arnold Maliba is on Progress, I am on Progress. We are a team of persons who are telling, when we came from telling you those things, we could meet in our cocoon and we say, please, Ken, you talked about this. Now we need to approach the minister. We tell the minister that we were discussing this, but it's not working. When you go to the minister is as helpless as even more than you. So the minister tells you, my brother, we are trying our best. Basically, they are working like, in fact, instructionary. It's more instructionary than. So I can tell you, we are in call a minister here. Just please, this is an open channel. I saw my brother, Dr. Raymond, explain this part. I really loved the way he explained things. But at least for him, he's working because interior chief and assistant chiefs are being run well. You can see they are in good uniforms. They are doing at least better. Now call a minister of health here. The minister will be very helpless. I will text you some questions to ask, only 2 to 3 questions. He will tell you that one maybe I can't address. Simply because they are more instructionary. They are like prefects. And they are not in charge of those things. They are just making notes. So that is it. They give the list of noisemakers. The person who punishes is known.
Which seat do you want to vie for in the next election?
Okay, fine.
You have in 10 seconds.
As a party, we are looking forward to changing this country, and that's why we want to take State House. We want to take state power. People don't believe sometimes. And when you say I want to be president, or my party leader Maliba wants to be president, or any member of progressive movement wants to be president, people laugh first. But the truth is that laughter breaks heart, and then you end up not fighting for what is right.
Okay.
This big political class must now go home. That's the simple truth, including members of parliament who have overstayed their usefulness must just go.
They are elected.
They are elected. But I'm telling you, Kenyans will not elect them again if they listen to what we have to say. 1, we need jobs. 2, we need water. This Article 10 of the Constitution, which talks about national values and principles of governance, if effected, we will have Article 43. Article 43 about socioeconomic, that's all Kenyans want. Kenyans don't want you to repair boomers of Kenya. You repair boomers of Kenya for who? If KICC has collapsed, Intercontinental Hotel has collapsed, like Regency has collapsed. Why are you bringing another thing?
Ken Ondiek is the national chair of the Progress Plus Alliance. Spilling some beans here this morning. It'll be interesting to see how times ahead of us lie. Thank you so much for being in the hot seat of the Situation Room this morning, Asante. And again, I want to watch. Thank you so much for being part of Kenya's biggest conversation through this Tuesday morning. Good morning. It's 10:01.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. The government has now threatened to close down private hospitals that refuse to provide services to patients using the Social Health Authority. According to addressing journalists, that is, Health PS Harry Kimtai said the government is committed to paying all outstanding debts of the collapsed NHIF, provided that the hospital